What's up, chat? Well, let's get this party started. What's up, everybody? Give me 1 second. Dag nabbit, I gotta set up I hope that Twitch is working today because it wasn't yesterday. Give me 1 second. There we go. All right. What's up, everybody? How you doing? I just now expanded my reach. Now I'm on Kick as well. I don't know how that's going to turn out. I hope that it's going to bring at least a couple more viewers. Because we got to talk about a lot of things, y'all. There's a lot of things to talk about, you know what I'm saying? There's a lot of crazy things going on in the world right now. There's a lot of situations, if you will. Situations, all right? Now, YouTube, thank you for... I don't know who you are, but the people that joined my YouTube yesterday, wow, oh my gosh. Thank you. It's great to see that so many people jumped onto YouTube. Peanut, what's up, Peanut? I'm so happy to see you in the chat, as always. Keeping it 100, fam, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I'm getting my cheeks clapped in Diablo 4, but listen to me, okay? Listen carefully. We're going to talk about a couple of things. I want to show some developments that happened recently. Not just with the Grush situation. I think we pretty much played that out. I think that situation's played itself out. I want to talk about what happened with some comments made by Dolan, and then I want to look at a video that was posted by Timothy Alvarino on another podcast, or I should say YouTube channel, where he kind of goes into more detail with some updates on that Brazil encounter. Now, the Brazil encounter is still in the news, y'all. It's still a thing. I thought it would be, debunked by now. If anything, like even if it's real, but people don't want to accept it, it's still a little wild, crazy. I figured they would have probably tried to debunk it by now. They can't. Apparently, nobody can debunk it. At least not at this moment. Not at this moment. There's a lot of possibilities. It could be this. It could be that. It could be, they could all be drug traffickers. They could be minors in costumes. Yeah, that's great. It sounds fun and stuff, but it's not based off reality. What's up, Alien Universe? Yo, Marquise in chat. Last night you needed to ask for the metadata to much trust. Too much trust? Listen, I'm not sure what you mean by metadata. What you talking about? Hit me up in the chat. You need to clarify what you mean by metadata. I'm not sure what you're referencing there, man. And I don't know why. I always get lost in this pool here. It's like, oh, look, to do this thing here, and then there's nothing to do here. So yeah, I got to do some gaming today. I have to do some gaming because honestly, I think that's probably what's really hurting me right now, y'all. This is mostly the biggest platform I'm on right now is Twitch, and it's a gaming platform. So I got to start gaming a little bit more. Yes, I am a gamer, kind of, but I'm not like a true gamer where people are like, they know the meta. Speaking of meta, they know meta in gaming. You know what I'm saying? Like they have a build, and they're like, yo, listen, if you have this armor with this mouthpiece and this eye shadow, and if you put this makeup on, then you get 15% critical hit rate, plus you get the vampire health steal. I watch YouTubers for all that, okay? I watch other YouTubers for all that, because I don't do it. But I'm going to try, okay? I'm going to try not to get my cheeks clapped in Diablo 4, because that's what everybody's getting their cheeks clapped in Diablo 4, including the creators, because Diablo 4 apparently it hasn't done a great job at balancing. So yeah, so there's that. Just throw that out there real quick. Aliens, y'all. Aliens. They're here, and they want something from us. Do they want our resources? Do they want our booty cheeks? I don't know. I really don't know. Probably all of the above. The picture taken with the purple cloud. You talking about Bob's photo? Science Bob's photo? Alien Universe, are you talking about the photo that Science Bob showed us yesterday where there was a figure in the background? listen, man, when it comes to stuff like that, there is no way of proving anything, right? Because when it comes to proof, you can't prove whether or not that photo is real. All you can say is that somebody took a photo of something that's very bizarre, and it's up to you to decide whether or not you believe it's authentic or not. I think that Science Bob is a very authentic person, and so when he shows me something like that, I am more inclined to believe that he is being honest about what he showed me. Is there an alien in the picture? I don't know. I have no idea. And nobody but Science Bob and his wife Lala can tell whether or not that's real. Nobody but them and God, or whoever you believe, the source, or the alien if there's an alien. Nobody but them can tell you that that's true, man. So that's a game that I don't play in terms of like, oh well, Nah, dude. You can always dispute every single photo, even if it's proven to be authentic according to the data, and that includes the metadata. You can still prove it's not real. It's an illusion. It's an effect. It's just your eyes picking up something that you don't understand. You could do that all day long. You cannot say that. And again, this is no disrespect to you, my guy, but you got to understand when it comes to debunkers, they can debunk anything at all. It's simple to debunk things. It's what they do. So nah, I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that. I'll be honest with you, my guy. I'm not buying that. I'm gonna say no. You can't prove that photo is real. Now, Twitch, I don't know what's going on Twitch. I hope you guys are there. Twitch, let me see if anybody's. Let me check Twitch chat and see if anybody's chatting on Twitch that I can't see. Hold on. Because again, Twitch is being real weird. I don't have Kick up. I don't know anything about Kick, to be honest with you. So, just winging it on that platform. I don't even know if I'm live. Am I live on Kick? I should be. I should be live right now. Video. I should be live. It says I'm offline though. So, I don't know. Guess it didn't work. Whatever. Twitch, Garyoki, what's up? I see you. And I'm here but quiet. Okay, bet. I appreciate you being there. So yeah, I see Twitch is legit. Twitch is working. Thank you, Momska. Chiro sounds. Alright, cool. So Twitch is working, it's just being really odd. Whatever. We'll work with it, y'all. We're gonna work with it, you know what I'm saying? Alright, I'm gonna pull up some stuff here for you all to check out. What's up, Lex? Alright, the chat's getting lit right now. I'm trying to wait until we get some more people in before I start going ham on this topic today. So let's just chat, y'all. Let's just talk to me. Talk to me, y'all. Holla at your boy. Listen, I really listen, guys. I gotta do this because again, this is all. I believe in what I'm doing. I believe that I want to do this, as legit as I can. I need your help, guys. Seriously, I need your help. I'm trying to reach my goal again this month for the GoFundMe or for the Patreon. So I'm gonna and again. Oh, by the way, I'm gonna give a shout out whenever Ravens Creek Charms comes in. Ravens Creek Charms donated to the GoFundMe yesterday. Thank you so much for doing that. I really appreciate that. When she comes in, we're gonna give that shout out. Derek Galloway, these are the people that have donated to my GoFundMe. Again, the GoFundMe is how I monetize the channel. I do not monetize any other way. Ravens Creek Charm, thank you so much for the donation. Again, I love you guys who support. All of you, a lot of you have supported the show. Almost everybody in the chat has supported the show and donated to the GoFundMe from last month or this one. So I just want to say thank you to everybody. Everybody. And again, right now it's Ravens Creek Charms. This is the latest donation that I received. So thank you for that. Thank you so much for that. I'm gonna put in the chat my GoFundMe link so you guys can, if you want to, and have the means to do so, please consider donating to the GoFundMe. It's what keeps me doing this. Last night, so everybody understands, I covered for Dave Scott for the second night in a row. On top of the streams that I do here 7 days a week, I went into to Dave Scott's show, covered it overnight until 3 o'clock in the morning. I am trying to do the thing, y'all. I'm trying to do this professionally. I'm doing this. I mean, I do this professionally. I'm trying to do it full time, is what I should say. And again, I've said this before. If I could just get to that goal, if I can reach my goal, I can justify to my very big family why I need to be here for 4 to 6 hours a day. You know, I want to do this a lot more. I want to be here a lot more, and I got to justify it with the, you know, with this support. So you are all helping me reach that goal. We're getting there. We're getting there. We're getting there. We're getting there. Right now, the GoFundMe is at 30. Let me just check so I can show everybody. I'm gonna go to my GoFundMe so you can all see. Yes, my funding is completely transparent. I'm completely transparent with my funding. I only do the GoFundMe on a monthly basis because it's what I need. Oh man, really? You're gonna do this to me? Hold on, let me block out so I don't log in and you see my login information. Hold on a second. Yeah, my funding and support is completely transparent. It's done 100% by you all. So just so you understand, that's how I do this. That's how I do this for as much as I do. So Ravens Creek Charm, thank you so much. Now let me pull up my GoFundMe so you can see where I'm at. I want everybody to see where I'm at. Hold on. Let's get that. So last month we exceeded the GoFundMe goal. It was a much lower goal because it was towards the end of the month. I was kind of like, man, this is what I minimum need to just like survive the month at that point. And this month it's going to be a little bit different, but still about the same. So let me show you guys this month's GoFundMe campaign. The last month we hit 361 for the GoFundMe. And you guys, I cannot believe you guys helped me out with that. So I'm going to post the new GoFundMe. I ended that GoFundMe, and now we're on a new GoFundMe goal for this month. The GoFundMe goal for this month is, we're at 45 for this GoFundMe. So thank you guys. Now I'm going to actually post this on Facebook. Hold on one second. Okay. I'm going to improve this eventually, but let's go ahead and just go with this, okay? I'll put this in my story, and I'll put this on my Facebook feed, and again, I'm hoping that people will, you know, I've got a lot of support. I got a lot of support, and I appreciate everybody that's been so supportive to me. So let's take a look at the GoFundMe right now and show everybody where I am, because I think it's awesome. I honestly can't believe that people want to help me, to be totally honest with you. I just it's a blessing to be able to have that kind of support and love from you guys. So here we are. The GoFundMe goal for this month is we're at $45. That's where we are right now. And the latest, of course, like I said, is Derek and Ravens Creek Charms. So thank you guys. And there's more people that donated, by the way. It's just, for example, let's see, Derek and Ravens Creek Charm, and I think I know who this is. Arden Ayara? Who is that? Arten Ayara. I know you're in the chat. Who are you? So I can thank you officially. I think I sent a thank you, but I know who that is. Peanut. That's what I'm talking about. Thank you, Peanut. All right, guys, let's get to going. Let's get this going. Let's get this party started, okay? Now that I've gotten that out of the way, I love you guys. Thank you for the support. I want to check this out. Fascinating if real, for sure. Richard Dolan posted something really interesting on the Twitter sphere. But first, I don't want to miss this. I hate when I do this. I pull up Twitch or Twitter and then boom, there's a new video I gotta watch. You know what? We're doing it. Let's go.
I'm a David Grush, and I sit there and I tell people live on TV that I have given the names and locations of basically where the spacecraft are, the crashed craft and materials, the biologics to the IG, and they can go and find this stuff. Now, I've given names and locations. At that point, do those locations not have the time to then move that material? Surely by the time anyone gets there, it's gone. And I would imagine the power that these folks have, they would find out that they're being come after well before David Grush even makes that statement live on TV. Is that fair?
That's a long pause.
I'm going to ask you a question. Who has David Grush, if he knows this information, who has he told it to?
So I would imagine he's told it to the Inspector General when he made his complaint, and he's had that filing. I don't know, has he mentioned it in any sort of committee before he spoke to Congress? Or has he kept that completely to himself? And this is really the first time anyone's hearing it outside
okay,
the IG.
Let's clarify. So David Grush can tell anybody that information if they have the proper clearance and they have the ability to hear him. So did you notice when he said in Congress a bunch, he's like, yeah, if you have the proper authorities and whatever, like I'll immediately give you all that information. So I really want to be careful here so your audience understands. David Grush has done everything by the book. He has never disclosed information that was classified or even sensitive coming.
Real quick, John Greenwald tried to suggest that David Grush violated national security and released information that he wasn't supposed to people that didn't have clearances. He, again, just like he did with Lou Elizondo, tried to suggest that David Grush is a traitor to the United States of America.
Close to that.
Then he gave a voice to the guy who released David Grush's medical information and didn't push back at all. As a matter of fact, he supported what he did by smearing David Grush, putting out his personal medical information that was HIPAA protected.
To any journalist or to anybody he shouldn't. That's what I respect about him. So with that information that you now have, that he has done things by the book, the question is, who can he tell? And he was extremely clear with who can he tell, which is anybody that will listen that has clearance and that has authority to be able to hear it legally. So with that said, I cannot report to you who David Grush has told. But what I can tell you is that the people in the right setting, with the right clearance, who he has told, found it credible, they found it urgent, and in fact have verified through their own investigation, because it's an open investigation, that what he said is correct. Now, your point is more about like, okay, so the public's going to know, the companies are going to know. If the companies know, we'll call them companies. It could be agencies, could be contractors. Could they just move it? Yeah, of course. So you have to be strategic, right? And some things are hard to move. I'm not going any further on that, but I'm just saying some things are hard to move. So with that said, the cat is out of the bag, and we are trying to get to a point where there's actionable intelligence and where that action gets taken by the authority that should take that action and not by authority that shouldn't, right? So to your point, to be very, very, very clear, and by the way, man, I am, whatever you want to talk about, let's clarify for everybody, okay? So when it comes to can they move it? Fuck yeah, they can move some stuff. Of course, they have directly threatened people. That's what you heard him testify to. Believe it or not, it's true. So yeah, that can happen, but there are measures in place to try to make this so that if something's moved, there's record of it. If something's changed, there's notification of that. There are people looking and watching with a microscope. And how you know that? Let me just give you something concrete and solid. How you know that? That amendment that was put forward, are you aware of the recent amendment that was put forward?
In the legislation?
Yeah, you aware of that? Okay, cool. So your audience that's not, does that look like an uninformed piece of legislation?
No.
Right. So, beyond a shadow of a doubt, people have been proven to that what is being sought actually exists. So then you do legislation to do it right. Read between the lines, man. Not you. I'm sorry.
Read between the mother effing lines, man. I'm not gonna curse, my children are listening to me. Read between the freaking lines, dude. I feel the same way. Sometimes what frustrates me the most about these kinds of conversations is that they have to be had in the first place. Like, we are all researching this topic, right? We're all trying to figure out the truth. But there are people who are like in my position, for example, who are doing this thing professionally. And yes, I get it. Some people it's a hobby. But it's still a responsibility. They have a responsibility by representing themselves as a researcher at the very least, or a journalist, and some people claim to be, to tell the truth about this and to look into these things and find them. Again, inference is another way to tell to find the truth. Guys, you can learn the truth through inference. You can. Anybody who says you can't is either lying or dishonest because they don't want the truth. They don't like the truth. I don't like the way it sounds, so I'm just gonna say like some people. I'm not gonna mention any names. Some people that might own a website that somewhere around the block. I don't know, something about the vault. I don't know. They'll say, oh, well, I don't like what's being said, so therefore I'm gonna try to implicate them in a crime. Read between the freaking lines, man.
Oh, no, not you, buddy. For your audience.
I'm going to cut that out and make it.
Did it pause on me? What happened? Hold on one second. I don't know what happened, but it just stopped. That's weird. Why did it stop like that? That's really strange. Oh, that was it. Dagnabbit. I guess I wonder if there's more to it. I want to hear the whole thing, man. Because that's a different one. We're checking out the full clip, y'all. We're going from there. We're going from that point forward. We're listening to it.
Has an active complaint and is represented by a lawyer, that lawyer would be there. So Chuck would say things like, careful. No,
we've already heard. This is our one. I guess we must have missed this part. That's okay. We've already heard this, y'all. We've already heard this. Great clip. I feel like I missed out because I feel like that's a part that I didn't catch the last time. Now, before I get caught up in all of the new footage, let's just go right to my Twitter page and find that video that I just reposted by Richard Dolan. This is important. So, chat. I know that super pause gets you every time. Chat, listen, check it out. Y'all know how I've been trying to tell y'all something? I've been trying to tell y'all. Y'all know how I've been trying to tell. Listen up, y'all.
Discusses. I think I am the only person in our community that comes back over and over to this, is the sheer vast quantity of sightings that happen around the world every single week.
Right.
Now, it's very difficult for us to get an estimate on that. We don't have good statistics on this at all. We have good statistics. Well, we have statistics for North America through MUFON and through the National UFO Reporting Center. Other regions of the world do have some ability to take raw reports from the public, but it's not particularly effective in my view. Certainly there's no question in my mind that this is going on in a very major way around the world. We do get reports from around the world, but there's no good report.
If you are advertising my channel, guys, listen to me right now, please listen. I went from 84 followers yesterday to 100, and I know this isn't a big deal for, there are channels with thousands and 100. I get it. It's a big deal to me. I went from 80 something, 85, 86 to 147 followers in overnight. I woke up to that today. Thank you. Whoever's sharing my channel, promoting my channel. Thank you, Alien Universe. I hear you. I see you. You want to take credit? By all means. Anybody who's sharing my channel and all over the place, thank you for doing that. You have clearly helped out jump my following massively. So thank you.
Very few good reporting mechanisms from most other parts of the world. I have tried to estimate or guesstimate what I think is going on in terms of the volume of activity. And when I look at the volume of what's happening in North America, my estimate is that we're looking at many thousands of bona fide sightings in North America every year. And North America is, US and Canada, I'm saying here, are essentially 5% of the world's population. There's 95% of the world's population is out there. And am I to think that all of the UAP action is happening over the US and Canada? Cannot believe that for an instant. There's
Great point. Somebody mentioned the other day, it's not just a U.S. thing, it's a worldwide thing. Obviously, I think that we all understand that it's a worldwide thing. It's not just a U.S. thing. I feel like it's rhetorical, but I get why when it's not, all these different conversations are not in the forefront. You can't have every single aspect of a conversation as a part of the forefront of the conversation. You got to focus on certain points here and there. I think that some things are just, they're implied by just observing reality. But I get why you had to mention that this is a global thing. I get that. I understand that. And again, this is where the kicker comes into play right here.
There's no reason to think that. So I think that we're looking at a very, very heavy blanketing of our globe with these beings, with these craft. Now that leads to the obvious question: is what are they doing? Why are there apparently so many of them? What's their infrastructure like? What's their action all about? They may not be seeking to put us into a cookbook. They may not be seeking to
What's up, Sonia?
take over the world or do instigate an open warfare. They may not be doing those things, but they are doing something that seems to be very, very important for them, that as far as I can see, takes up a significant amount of resources on their part and a significant investment of time and energy and commitment on their part and planning.
AKA John.
All of those, I think, are undeniable.
AKA inflating those numbers. Thank you so much for that.
And I just don't hear anyone discussing this. This is
Okay, real quick. So Richard Dolan just mentioned the fact that there may not be open warfare with this phenomena. There may not be a takeover, a global takeover, and they're not trying to eat they're not gonna serve us up on a silver platter to their alien babies and stuff like that. But like, they're doing something. They're doing something big. They've been doing it for quite some time, and we cannot just assume that it's all benevolent, good space brothers. Now listen, he's being very careful. I'm not as careful as Richard Dolan. I'm working on this, guys. You have all challenged me to be better with my perspective, be more balanced. I'm trying. But I want to bring this to the table because I think that Richard Dolan does it way better than I do. I think he presents this argument better than I do, that they're doing something. We need to pay attention to it. We cannot just say, oh, it's all benevolent light beings. But they're also not eating us. So what's the deal? What's going on here? Let's think about this logically, in a balanced way, objectively true.
important operation that is happening. And I'm not satisfied with a complacent attitude about that, where people saying, well, maybe they're not hostile. Okay, maybe they're not hostile, but they are everywhere. And I, for one, would like to have a clearer understanding of just what they are doing before I'm willing to say everything's fine. There's nothing to worry about.
The most important thing that he said, I would like to have a clearer understanding. Does anybody know what they're doing here? Anybody at all? Anybody want to make a claim that they're God and they know exactly what's going on here? Because nobody knows what's going on. But if there's somebody claiming to be a Messiah, a prophet, or a soothsayer, please hit me up in the chat. I didn't know that you were, the all-knowing, all-seeing eye of the universe. But nobody that's honest about this knows what's going on. And to be honest, you have to ask yourself, well, then what are they doing? And until you find out what exactly, you gotta reserve your definitive position on what they're doing. Now, yes, there have been conflicts. Yes, There have been contact. Yes, it's been varied. Doesn't mean that we know what they're doing and what their intentions are.
Now, look, you and I and your audience are very well aware that there are many, many cases of sightings and of contact that are not hostile, and in fact that many people will say seem to be full of goodwill or benevolent. I'm aware of this as well, and I don't deny that. So it's not the case that we're dealing with necessarily every group out there, and I do think there's multiple groups, are intent on doing us harm. But that's not to say that there isn't something that we want to be concerned about. So I think the idea of a potential threat is a valid one. And it's disappointing for me when I hear a lot of folks say, well, that's just playing into the hands of the military. What's more...
The most important aspect of this is right here. I've been accused of this. I get it, y'all. I get it. But this is important. Listen to this. He said that, oh, you know, people are saying, oh, you're playing into the hands of the military-industrial complex. It's all about, you know, let's hear what he has to say about that.
More important to me is what is true, rather than what are the motivations or who's it's playing into the hands of. I want to know what is true. And as far as I can see, I could never rule out that this is a genuine potential threat to our world, or at least to human society. So, and you know, human societies, we've got our problems, and we create our problems, and we create problems for this planet of ours. Let's just be real about that. And you could make the case, I'm sure aliens who've come here may be making the case that those humans are not doing a very good job at stewarding the planet. I could easily imagine that argument happening. And
all right, so this is, again, I think this is a very good measured argument to what my position is. You know, they're doing something. I don't think that everything in the universe is bad out there. I don't think that at all. I think people misunderstand my position, and I think that's my fault. I think it's because I don't talk about, well, what do I think is good out there? I think that if there is good out there, it is not intervening. It is not intervening at all. It's not going to sit here and abduct you. It's not going to take you. It's not going to force you to have a baby. It's not going to take that. All the things that we hear about the abduction phenomena, I do not believe for 1 second that is the benevolent ones. And so the reason why I talk about it so much is because, well, those are the ones that we're dealing with. Those are the ones that we should be concerned about. And to your point, Sonia, aka, you know who you are, John P. Yeah, anybody can be wrong, but also anybody, like if you're looking at, like if you have 3,000 data points, okay? There's this going on, there's that going on, there's this going on, and you ignore all of them because like one of those data points is like, oh, guess what? This is happy, so therefore everything else should be dismissed. That's where my concern comes into play. My concern is that, like, why are we ignoring the vast majority of data for like the minute, like piece of data that says that there's that's what concerns me, personally. That's my concern. So, that's why I talk about it, because I don't want people to, you know, wow. Hold on, I gotta boost up the unicorn here. So yeah, I mean, it's to me, for me personally, I just think we need to address the elephant in the room and not the mouse that's running around, you know, trying to distract us from the elephant. That's kind of what my position is. Everybody would say Bob would be happy to show you the camera and at a data, Sonia. Well, fair enough. Yeah, but I personally don't care about those. To be totally honest with you, I'm only listening to it because if it wasn't for the fact that it was Science Bob, I would never pay attention to that stuff. I don't think it's very interesting to talk about as part of the conversation. You know what I think is interesting? This right here.
You know, we had good control. We had good control of the environment, but not enough to aggravate the performance. Like if you had cameras, you're aggravating it.
Mm-hmm. So the ball and jack experiment, can you explain that for our viewers?
So we got good-sized jacks that were probably an inch square, and a ball the size of a golf ball, roughly. maybe a little smaller. And so our ranch manager and one of our security officers used the kitchen table in the double wide trailer to set it up.
Yeah.
So they arranged them in a circle, and they put the ball in the middle of the circle.
Right.
And we took a photograph. And they weren't done very neatly. And the reason we knew that is because after they were acted upon, we saw how neatly they were set up. Okay. So they were set up so the ranch manager, security guy go outside. There's nobody else in the trailer. They wait 30 seconds and come back in. Nothing's been changed. They go back outside. They wait a minute. They come back in. Everything's changed. It's not a circle, it's a horseshoe. The ball is outside of the horseshoe. All of the jacks were paired in color. In fact, when we did the before and after photographs, I had Charles had photographs there, and I said, "Now, look at these jacks. What do you notice?" Well, he didn't make a comment too much, but I said, "Well, look, every single color is that we have pairs of colors, and they're all paired."
It sounds as if it was some sort of an effort to really communicate.
I think that's what demonstrations are. I think that you have 1,000 different kinds or 1,000,000 different kinds of demonstrations in the consciousness world, and I think all of that is a communication. It's not just, oh, here, look at me, I move something for you. It's, I move something, now figure out what it took to move it. Why did it move? How did it move? And so you start thinking about that and you realize, well, it's not in our physics, and it's in another dimension is interacting in our dimension. And with ease, with impunity, with ease, and any time, and very powerfully.
Now listen to this. They're talking about an experiment that this is Bob Bigelow. Keep in mind, Bob Bigelow funded. I'm going to address some of your comments. Bob Bigelow funded the I believe it was ATIP or OSAP. I'm not sure which one or if both, but he funded one of those. He was, now I am speculating. I'm assuming that he's the funder, the big billionaire that Lou Elizondo got in contact with to find out what was going on with this. Because again, if you listen to Lou Elizondo's conversations, and this is speculation, this is Dr. Doerr's speculation right here, all right? I'm dissecting this junk right here. He pretty much suggests almost describing the rich person who's associated with aerospace industry. That would be Bob Bigelow, who's writing, who's like, funding things for different, NASA and so forth. And I got to listen to some of Lozano's old interviews to kind of break that down. But if you look at some of Elizondo's old interviews talking about who it was, it sounds like Bob Bigelow. There have also been other researchers who have suggested it was Bob Bigelow. I think it probably was, but I guess we'll never know until he tells us. Maybe I'm missing something. But either way, Bob Bigelow is talking about an experiment they've done where they're interacting with interdimensional beings. Essentially, something is able to manipulate our physical world, and for the purpose of giving us, telling us, figure out how we did it, communicating to us, figure out how we did it. That's what his suggestion is. That's what he believes is happening. That they don't just, you lose your keys. Maybe you didn't lose your keys. Maybe something moved it. Now, don't get crazy here. Don't turn up in a mental institution because I'm talking about interdimensional beings moving your keys, and you're like, dag nabbit, akbak darkdar, what did you do to my key? Don't do that, y'all. Seriously though, there are things that are interacting with us at all times in many different ways, whether it be through our thoughts or maybe even through manipulating physical reality around us. All right, maybe through influencing people around us. Maybe that's something that's happening. The question is why? Who are they? What are they doing? Where are they from? What's the nature of their existence? What's the nature of their contact with us? Are we crazy? And is it all connected? Are the beings that are manipulating these things that are a part of Bob Bigelow's experiment the same ones that are doing the things that are creating craft? Are they the same? I mean, I don't know, but they seem to think that there's some kind of a connection. They, as in the people investigating the phenomenon, like Bob Bigelow and Elizondo and others. Let me talk to y'all, chat. Let me see what chat's talking about. So the whole problem is with that they've done nothing so far that fits in with our own stories of science fiction. Huh? Because no one wants to play into... What do you mean, karaoke? Hold on. Nah, dude, they don't know what's going on either. Karaoke. They don't know what's going on either. They may have an idea, but they don't know what's going on. They have an idea. He's not ruling it out. All he's doing is confirming there's a possibility they could be a danger to us. Yeah, of course, and I agree with that, right? So that's kind of the point. The point is that, you know, but the problem is that people are saying that there is no danger and nobody should ever think that there is. And if you do, you're feeding into the military-industrial complex. That's the problem that he's addressing specifically. You know, he's addressing that problem. The one that I address often, just not as successfully and as clear as he is. He's done it obviously quite a bit better than I have. Great show. Can you send it? Send it to me in the Discord. Yeah, those Discord videos again. I gotta find a day where we go to those Discords, man. I can't be here for the whole day today for obvious reasons, guys. You know, guys and gals. I got a family of 11, so I'm juggling, right? I'm juggling. Y'all know this. Y'all know this. Got a big family. It's awesome. I love it. But it's a lot of work. So on top of the stuff that I do here, obviously I've got a family as well. So I gotta maintain that too. I can only be here. And so in case anybody has any issues with Twitch, please let me know. I highly recommend that everybody please go on to, just for the sake of helping a brother out, you know what I'm saying? Go on to Kick. That is new to the Kick app. I just started the Kick app. If you would like to show some more support for me in any way, go on to Kick. It's a free way to support me. Follow Dimensions of Reality on Kick, okay? I just started the Kick app. So let me post the link in the chat. All you gotta do is go there, you know, follow me. Hopefully you can do that. You can take the time out of your day to do that real quick. Because I'm trying to expand the audience, and that's just one little thing that can help out. You guys know how it works. Just one little thing that can help out. Just one little thing. Never heard of Kick? Me either. Until recently somebody's like, you gotta get on the Kick. Kick is trying to replace Twitch. I don't think it will. I think the Kick app is trash. It's glitchy, it's weird, I mean, it seems kind of cool, but no, it's not. Let me, hold on. But I'm gonna share my channel, the new channel there. Hold on one second. See, it's glitching right now. The Kick app is glitching right now. Again, I'm not saying it's a great place to go, but it's somewhere, it's somewhere that I'm on as well. And I think it's important that I try to expand that reach, you know. How do I share my channel? I guess I can't. So follow me on Kick somehow. Dimensions of Reality. Follow me on Kick. Hold on. Let me see if I can. Yeah, I don't know how to. How do I share my freaking channel, dude? I don't know how to share my channel, so let's just go ahead and cut this out, and I'll post it in Discord so you guys can. I'm sorry, Discord. I'll post it in the chat on Twitch, and then I'll post it again in the chat on YouTube. What the freak? Okay. Okay, chat. So YouTube. You don't ever have to go back on Kick ever again. I do have a TikTok. I have a TikTok, but TikTok does not allow me to freaking TikTok doesn't allow me, for some reason the streaming situation is terrible on TikTok. It doesn't help me, it doesn't allow me to to do the stream key. You have to like jump through hoops to get the streaming key for TikTok. It's not even worth it, man. I mean, I'm so annoyed by that. I'm super annoyed by that. All right, so this is a really good, hold on a second, let's pull this up because Jay from Project Unity did an interview with the nuclear physicist, and I think this is important. Special Projects Manager for Los Alamos National Labs, y'all, and U.S. Navy veteran Oak Shannon. This is not the first time he's spoken to Oak Shannon. He tells us the story of when he and his family saw a UFO over their house that was similar in appearance to a stingray, almost looked alive. Now, this is part of the anomalous phenomena. Why do they call it anomalous? Because guess what? These craft, some of them, might be alive.
We had a very nice home in Los Alamos, Mexico, and it's 7,200 feet altitude. So we used to get heavy snows. And so we buried our jacuzzi deep in the ground with heavy insulation so that we could sit in the jacuzzi while it snowed on our head.
Which is such a great experience being in a jacuzzi with snow.
You got snow piling up on your head and you're just as warm as toast in this jacuzzi. And so we had a little Shih Tzu puppy, or dog, that adored Linda, as all animals do. And he would not leave Linda's side. Well, we're sitting in the tub, and our three boys and Linda and I came out, and all of a sudden, the dog left Linda and went inside the house, and that was just not. He was obviously scared. And so I sat down in the tub, and the boys started telling me, "Dad, we saw this really weird thing," and I have a mean streak, I guess, especially when it came to our boys. I just needled them. Oh, yeah, sure. You really saw something. Sure you did. Yeah, I know. And they got some discussion with me. They were threatening to leave, and they got up, and oh, no, don't leave even. So I had my back to the house at first, but when I got up to keep them in the tub, I ended up with my facing the house and the peak of the roof. And I started going into the end. Yeah, guys, you didn't see anything. And I saw this thing come up over the roof of the house. And that's all I can say it was. It was shaped like a stingray.
Like a stingray.
And a stingray.
Hold on one second.
Had that shape to it. And it even appeared to have a ridge down the middle of it. It had circular glowing areas underneath it. Made no noise whatsoever. Its movement almost seemed as though it was alive. And it slowly went overhead. It must have been very large and fairly far away because it was appearing to be slow. Went out over the canyon and then went up and disappeared. And I have to admit, I have no idea what that could have been. Now, having said that, the United States does, Los Alamos is a no-fly zone. But every now and then, they'll bring an experimental craft to Los Alamos and ask the laboratory to put all sorts of sensors out and see if they can sense this thing in some way, especially when they're developing the stealth aircraft. We saw the stealth aircraft too. This was not a stealth aircraft. Mm-hmm. We've seen those. We saw those being tested over Los Alamos.
The Armenian, I will ask, can you please send that to me in a DM, and then I can ask him for you. Because if I can ask him for you, I don't know if he'll respond right away. It takes a while sometimes, but if you ask, hit me up in the DMs, and then I'll send it to him.
This wasn't that. It was.
But send it as if you're addressing it to him directly. That way, there's no mistranslation between us.
Reliably, a UAP or a UFO. What it was, I don't know.
Interesting that you said it almost looked like it was alive.
Right. Yeah. It was kind of undulating,
flexing, and yeah,
I like it. Flexing.
Wow.
Not flapping wings, or
no,
kind of slowly flexing. And the round, the glowing areas were kind of indistinct. They were obviously circles of something, and they were spaced around the underside of the craft. And it was a craft, I believe. I have no idea where it came from, what it was. Whether it was experimental in some way. If it was, its propulsion system wasn't what we normally expect.
No.
So here's my pleasure, the Armenian. Anytime, man. Anytime anybody has questions for somebody that I'm connected to, if I can ask, I will. If it's respectful and appropriate, I will ask. So here's an interesting aspect of the phenomenon. In my opinion, I think that we are missing a massive part of the piece of this puzzle. By the way, you in the YouTube chat, the love in the YouTube chat, I really appreciate that. Raven Squeak Charm, Rad Peanut, Chiro Sounds, you are all, there is some serious love going on in there, and it makes my heart flutter. So thank you so much for that. Unlike the frustration that I get from watching some of these videos, anyway. I'm not gonna make myself mad. I'm not gonna get all worked up today. Today we're chilling, y'all. I got the green light from the unicorn. If everybody wants me to, I will stay on for an extra hour. So instead of being here for 2 hours, I can be here for 3. It's up to y'all. I will leave that up to everybody in the chat. If you want me to be here for another hour, we can view a video that I wanted to view. If we do. It's actually going to be, and I'm just going to be honest with you, it's going to be about the situation in Brazil. I'm sorry, Peru. So if you don't want to see that, no problem. It's chill hote. It's all bet Rat Peanut. But if you don't want to view that, we can look at something else. But yeah, we'll see what's up. There's a lot of stuff there's so much stuff to review. Twitch chat is Descent. The Descent is in the Twitch chat. Get rid of all that crap. I see. Alright, you got it. You got it. So let's go ahead and take a look at some stuff here, y'all. Now here's where the you owe us an hour because of Dave yesterday, and tell your unicorn she is the best. I'm gonna tell her she's the best. I got you, my guy. I'll let her know right away. Hold on a second. I feel like there's a lot going on. Yeah, honestly, I love doing this. I wish I could do it for longer, but again, this is why, this karaoke, I got you. This is why I ask for support so often, because, hey, listen, it's what justifies what I'm doing here, guys. It's there's so much support from so many different places, and I have to start doing the thing that I never wanted to do, which is ask for help. So. You're not ready for countdown. I'm ready for countdown. What you talking about? Your gear won't help you. My gear sucks. My friend told me that my gear in the Division 2 sucks. Man, I am not the best. I'm gonna work on the gaming thing. It's hard to game when you have. It's really hard to game, to be honest, when I have so many responsibilities. But I wish I could do it all day long. What do you think that is? I don't know. Where's that video that I wanted to show everybody? Okay, so I played this yesterday. I want to know what you all think. Use your better judgment. Do not just believe anything you see here. Just check it out. Tell me what you think.
Incredible new footage has surfaced that may extraterrestrial life exists. The fuzzy video, reportedly filmed in a remote Peruvian jungle in 2018, shows a slender, 6-foot tall.
I'm going to be honest with you. I said this last night. I'm going to say it again. I don't know if it's real, but if it's not real, somebody knows how they move.
Humanoid with pale skin, eerily walking between trees. The creature's oversized head, long neck, and spindly limbs resemble
Ignore the stupid, freaking dramatic and small spindly arms. If you look closely, you can see there are 2 large black eyes and an alien-like head and a skinny neck with a skinny body and very thin limbs. Also some luscious lips. and maybe even a fat rump, if you look closely. Not that I'm looking.
Descriptions of the alien grays found in supposed eyewitness accounts. The man who filmed the
And also the bosom protrudes quite far out from the chest.
being did so discreetly while hiding behind foliage, too frightened
Oh yeah.
to approach it. The video's poor quality adds an air of mystery.
And it's time for my alone time, my special alone time with this video. For educational purposes only.
Making it impossible to conclusively identify the strange entity. Yet its clearly inhuman characteristics provoke fascination. Is this finally evidence we are not alone in the universe? Or an elaborate hoax? Share your opinion in the comments.
I don't know, man. If this is real, somebody knows how they walk. From personal experience, somebody knows how they walk. So I don't know. I don't know what to think. It's so yeah, I agree with you, Peanut. Some of them are tall. Yeah. So Lex, there are short grays. There are, I guess you can call them regular sized grays, and there are tall grays. There are several different kinds of grays. Karaoke, you better calm down. Karaoke, you better calm. Don't you say it. All right, let's keep this PG-13. Except for when I make these jokes. Oh my gosh. You guys are seriously so awesome. I look forward to these conversations for so many different reasons. You guys are so great. This is awesome. It's so weird. Like, we've built a community here, a very consistent, a very good, healthy community here. We've debated, we've argued. You guys have told me I'm wrong. You know, we've made fun of each other's arguments, and we still sit here and have a great time together. That is what I believe is a part of having a good time, making a good, and having a strong, healthy community. Also, I want to say, Red Peanut has an Instagram account where her art is displayed, and I want you all to check it out. Hold on one second. I want to give a shout out to Rad Peanut's art, so let's go ahead and check this out. Y'all gotta see this, and I would love for you all to please, again, this is just because, you know, we got a family here, so let's support the fam, you know what I'm saying? All right, Peanut, let's go ahead and let's give you a shout out. Let's put this on. Get Peanut's channel. And then I want you all to react bomb Peanut's channel. It's called Rad Doodles. Oh, you changed it. What's the new name, Peanut? Change the name. Yeah, tell me what the name is so that I can find it, because here it is. I got it. So it's Peanut Doodles. That's even better. I freaking love it. All right, so let me pull it up on screen here. Hold on 1 second. I'm gonna maximize this baby and maximize this. You get to see Peanut actually draw these things in real time. Like she has, I'm guessing it's an iPad, because iPad or something, because she can replay them. And I want you to do it. I want you to love bomb Peanut's channel. React bomb the channel right now. Everybody, please take the time out of your day to react bomb this channel. And also follow, of course, too. Let's check it out. This is fantastic. I really wish I had the artistic. I used to be able to draw, but I've never been able to paint. So this is awesome. Yeah, react. I was looking for something to react to, but I already react bomb. We gotta change that number, y'all. We gotta fix this. What is this? Fix it. Show some love. Of course, Peanut. You put in the work, you know what I'm saying? I want to show you some love. You show me some love too, so you definitely deserve it, right? Thank you for the love you show us in the channel, in the chat. And I want you all to please follow Rad Peanuts Instagram account. It is Peanut Doodles. Peanut Doodles. Posting that in the chat. Peanut Doodles. Here we go. What we want to do, especially when it comes to supporting artists and creators, is be very supportive, because listen, AI can create a lot of things, but it can't recreate us. And it's within the human spirit, it's within the human creativity that we really shine and show what we're capable of. And if we don't support these creators out there, these artists, okay, look at what's happening to the world. We'll lose human creativity. We will lose human creativity. We don't want that. Support Rad Peanut, please. I want to make sure that light in Rad Peanut stays alive, because mine died out when I was a kid, when I was drawing cartoon characters, and people told me to cut that out and grow up. But Peanuts didn't. So let's support Peanut. All right, y'all. Let's check out some crazy stuff. Let's check out some oh my gosh, The Hill. I'm not doing it today. I'm not doing it today. We're not doing it. We're not doing it. Tomorrow I will drive myself insane with some stuff that I saw recently that really PMO'd. It made me so mad. I was so angry. Oh, those people. Those sons of Where's my video at? Here it is. There is an update on the flying beings in Peru. We're gonna start from here because literally we'll just play it. Now we're gonna start from here. There's almost nothing new, so we got to start from here because I'm not wasting an hour of crap.
Terrifying. Some sectolins. I was very surprised actually how serious the coverage was regarding this incident in the Peruvian media. And so the Navy showed up on scene, they conducted an investigation, and they concluded recently, after conducting their quote-unquote investigation, they concluded that the intruders are not extraterrestrials, but rather these are miners.
BS. I heard this argument before. BS.
Illegal miners who are mining for gold in the rivers, who are attempting to drive this tribe away from the area because the tribe has legal right to this area. They're trying to drive them out so that they can mine in the river around the village and in the general area. They're even saying, because a lot of people are pointing out that, wait a minute, these things are floating off the ground, these things are there's behaviors here that are obviously beyond the capabilities of Peruvian illegal miners. And so what is the response from the Navy, from the police and the Navy in Peru? Oh, the miners have jetpacks.
Y'all want to play games with me, huh? You want to play games with me? I'm not going to get myself frustrated. It's a relaxed day today.
The miners are
Wow.
The miners are flying around with jetpacks and drones and are attempting to terrorize and drive away the Iquitu people inhabiting.
This is the official response. If you have a brain, please listen.
This region. Obviously preposterous. Preposterous. I mean, I just can't believe that they're actually pushing this narrative. Now, I should also say, before I completely wrap up, I should also say that there's video online and in my video on YouTube of the villagers running around at nighttime with flashlights, firing into the jungle, discharging their weapons into the jungle. They're obviously very disturbed, very distraught. They're in a state of panic and terror. All the women and children are huddled in the middle of the village, while the men are running around the outskirts, trying to ward off these, again, in their words, extraterrestrial intruders. And they're flashing their lights into the trees around their village. And in some of these videos, I'm going to contend that you can clearly see tall, gray aliens. And I've looked at the stills of these videos. I've featured it in my own video. I've watched other videos. We've done some enhancements of our own, and I'm telling you, you're looking at tall gray aliens. Now, are these people dressed up in costumes? Is this some sort of a hoax? Is it holographic? I don't know, but I'm just saying that you can see these beings in the footage. They have the typical bulbous heads with the almond-shaped eyes. They actually look more like insectilins. They are, presumably, they are 7 foot tall. They're not the small grays. They're definitely large. They look.
There again. I mentioned this earlier, but there are different size height grays. Of course, why did I have to be the size of the small ones? I don't know.
Very much like. I'll take a break before we segue into this. They look very much like what we saw in the Vegas incident, but these beings are there. They're on camera, and the footage is clear enough to where you can actually see them moving their heads around. It's not static. These entities are actually looking around, and they're kind of up behind a tree. So either they're floating there or they're sitting in the tree in this particular video. And I looked closely at this video yesterday, and I noticed that there wasn't just one. There was actually 2 or 3 grouped together up there, and you can see their almond-shaped black eyes. Me and Doug noticed that you could even see the glare of the flashlight off of their eyes.
I could see that as well. I hope you guys check that video out. We played it a bunch of times here, but it's legit, man. I don't know if they're costumes or whatever, but whatever is there is there.
Guys shine.
So something is there, okay? These villagers are being terrorized by something real. This is not some sort of a psychosis. This is not a hoax. This is not a ploy for attention. I don't know the people in this specific village, but I know, generally speaking, the people who inhabit this area.
Generally speaking, Chinese people speak Chinese. Sorry, that Joe Rogan clip drives me insane. Joe Rogan is he's so salacious.
Area of Peru. This is not typical behavior. They are definitely 100% in a state of terror. And as I said, very distraught. So that's it in a nutshell.
Like right off the bat, Tim, it reminds me of a story that we interviewed John Redbird Dover on our podcast. He came on the show, and he was a paranormal ranger in Navajo country. And
he's a Power Ranger? What? I'm sorry, a Power Ranger? Oh, paranormal. Sorry, it just sounded cooler when we said.
He said there was a story of a guy that described the way these aliens moved. They said they were like in a straight line floating across the ground going back into the ship. Remember that, Luke?
Yeah. It's like
I told you guys this. Listen, I told you. That's what they did. Whenever I saw them, they floated in like a very fluid, like continuum, like no deviation from their walking movements or anything. It's bizarre.
Went uphill like they're on an escalator.
Yeah. So that's not the first time we've heard this.
Oh, yes, and I've heard from Robert Fleischman, the original singer with Journey, who told me at my Birthright conference that he had an encounter with gray aliens. And shout out to Robert Fleischman if he's listening to this. He had an encounter with gray aliens, and the very same thing. They were floating at him. Mm-hmm. They emerged out of a vessel, out of a craft that came up out of the ocean, and they were chasing him, but they weren't running. They were floating. So this is consistent with many, 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 many stories that have come forward over the decades regarding gray aliens specifically.
Yeah, and I remember at the Vegas incident, they were talking about how big they were and they were tall. And I was going to ask you, just off the record, what do you think about these tall grays? Because most of the time we hear
off the record on YouTube Live. Can you answer this question off the record on YouTube Live?
They're small, and I know that Phil Schneider supposedly battled some of these tall ones. We've seen the tall ones depicted in a lot of movies. What's the difference between the tall grays and the short grays? Just nothing, or?
Well, the tall grays are 7 feet tall. The short ones are 3 to 4 feet tall. Now, are these tall grays? Are these insectilins? Because there is Dr. David Jacobs, UFO, an abduction researcher, makes a differentiation between the small grays and these entities he calls insectilins on board the UFOs that abductees encounter during abduction episodes. And insectilins are described as being 6.5, 7 foot tall. Mm-hmm. And they look very much like the grays, but their heads are they have more of a distinct, exotic insect-like appearance That's why sometimes people refer to them as mantis beings, because they kind of look like a praying mantis in the face. And I would say that is what these entities look like in this video. And let's now draw an interesting correlation to 3 events, and this is what I did in the video with Doug. I see 3 events here that are connected in my mind. We have obviously this incident in Peru with the Iquitu tribe, in the village of San Antonio. We have the Vegas incident that occurred the last night of May this year. And then we have the story that Phil Schneider tells about his altercation with these very same entities as he was employed on the construction of a deep underground military base at Dulce and Los Alamos National Laboratory, which is famously known as the Dulce Wars, by the way. This sort of kicked off the Dulce Wars.
Which, again, why are we not talking about this, everybody, right? I talked about it before. You guys know I do. No, I'm not trying to promote a military-industrial complex narrative. I'm trying to push the truth, y'all. And sometimes the truth ain't always fun.
This incident that Schneider talks about. So you have 3 incidents that are seemingly disparate, disconnected, but what unites these incidents is the description of the beings. Now, I want you to understand that whenever somebody encounters something terrifying, something so outside of the realm of normalcy, there's going to be confabulation when they describe entities. If you encounter something briefly, you see something that's beyond the scope of what's normal for you, and then you try and recall the encounter afterwards, your mind will confabulate details that you think should be there, but maybe were not. And what I mean by that is, I believe that the entities that were encountered in the Vegas incident, which I'm leaning towards that being real, by the way. I don't know. I can't be 100% sure, but I lean in the direction that that was an authentic encounter with non-human entities. The description of those entities was that they were very tall. I think they were confabulating 10 feet tall. I think the entities were, in fact, 7, and I have a reason for believing that. They were about 7 feet tall, and I think that they were gray aliens, large gray aliens. And again, I have a reason for believing that. And I believe that especially that, I don't remember his name, that particular young man who's been most vocal about the encounter, he described initially a large mouth, seeing a mouth on this creature. I think he confabulated that. And the reason why I think he confabulated that particular detail is because I believe we have a picture of the being that was captured. I'm pretty sure we discussed this on your show, that was captured in the footage from that news agency. Remember, the local news agency came to do a report at the property shortly after the incident in Las Vegas, and we've all seen this video. They're interviewing this family, the members of this family who've had this encounter, and then they're walking to the backyard. And as they're walking to the backyard, they cut the footage. But before they cut the footage, people have taken that footage and blown it up. And in the backyard, you can see, it's not like grass, it's gravel, and it looks like they work on cars or something back there, and there's a forklift. The members of this family who had the encounter, they specifically said that the beings were hiding behind the forklift. And so when they walked into the backyard, again, somebody took a still out of the video before they cut the footage, and they blew it up, and lo and behold, I can see clear as day, in the footage, a tall gray. And I'm telling you, it looks precisely like the one that it was captured on video in the Amazon. It's the same thing. Let's call it a species. It's the same species, and it's the same size. What I saw, I made a determination based on the size of the head in the forklift that this being was not 10 foot tall, rather it was more like 7 foot tall with a very large head. And I think the immense bulbous head with these large almond eyes, the head is oversized on these creatures. On the small grays and on the tall grays, the head is oversized. It's not proportional to the body. So I think when people see the large ones, they confabulate a stature that is actually not accurate. In other words, they see this large head that looks like it should belong on a 10-foot tall creature, when in reality, it's a 7-foot tall creature, because that's what I saw in the video. It looks like it's 7 foot tall.
Still is huge. Still 7 foot tall.
Which is huge.
Big fella.
With a massive head, disproportional to the body. That would be more proportional in a 10 foot tall being. I don't know if I'm explaining this in a clear manner. But what I want to stress is that it's the exact same thing I'm looking at in the jungle of Peru terrorizing this village. Same thing. These are the same creatures. Now, you can make the case that the video in Vegas was hoaxed and that the video in Peru was also hoaxed. They did some visual effects and they added in this creature, right? They edited in the creature. I don't know. I highly doubt it based on the footage. I highly doubt it. But it's a possibility, sure. But what's the chances that they're going to get the exact same creature, same stature, and the one in Vegas also in the video, it's moving its head. It's not static. It's moving its head. It's looking slightly up, slightly to the left and right, and slightly down, just like the one or the ones captured in the video in Peru. So something's going on here. In my opinion, without knowing all the details, of course, without being on the ground in Peru interviewing these people myself, which I can't do because my passport is in transit, by the way, I believe that these people, the Vegas incident, the Peru incident, and Phil Schneider all encountered the exact same species of non-human entities. Large grays, 7 foot tall. These are nasty beings in possession of advanced technology. That is my personal opinion, and it is just my speculation. I have no proof that that's the case, but I personally believe that is precisely what they're encountering.
Well, it makes me think about our interview, Luke, with David Politis, Missing 411, where you had this animal involvement where the craft are coming out in the middle of nowhere. They're taking animals, and we talked to Dave extensively about just the oddities of the animal stuff. I think the face peeling part of this and the cattle mutilations, to me, lends a lot of credibility. We also interviewed a cop who lived in Colorado who said he got called to several cattle mutilations, and how everyone standing around was like, this is a phenomenon. This is something strange. These things are like dropped out of the sky. They're sucked dry. Body parts are missing, like you're describing, and that gives some credibility to this Peruvian story, because this guy is just laying there in his face. It almost looks like Skeletor from the He-Man series. It's like this skull on this face. It doesn't look like it was chewed off. It looks like it was like sucked off of, and I think that lends some credibility to these stories, because a lot of people just think that the UFO phenomenon, the alien phenomenon, it's all spiritual. Like, why are animals involved? Why is blood and DNA and body parts involved? It doesn't make sense if it's just that. Like, I think there's a element to it, but you have this obsession with the physicality of us and animal species. It's just, what are they doing, Tim? Why are they doing this like science experiment?
I have no freaking idea why they would surgically remove a face.
Yeah, that's weird.
It makes no sense to me. I mean, I've heard various theories about it, but I don't know why they would do that to human beings or to cattle. Maybe they're harvesting some sort of genetic components. Some people have even suggested that they're feeding off of something. They need to harvest it for nutrients to make their own nutrient solutions that they eat, because the Greys, and this is something that I think we can know definitively at this point about the Greys, they don't eat like we eat. They don't have teeth. It seems to me that they can only absorb liquid nutrients. And I know that seems like a shot in the.
That's literally what was mentioned by that Reddit post that talked about the microbiologist who claims to have access to what the Greys are. Like, he knows what they are.
Dark for people who aren't familiar with the abduction material or with a lot of the data regarding the Greys from decades of ufology. But there's very good reason to believe that they don't ingest or digest food in the same way that we do.
Kind of like in the Matrix, they feed the humans intravenously by liquefying the dead.
Yeah, something like that. There was a document that surfaced, and I believe it surfaced, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it surfaced on Reddit, and it was a document that...
I've never seen this before, yeah, I'm just throwing this out there.
That was allegedly published online anonymously by an individual who's been working in a laboratory with the bodies of these entities. And one thing that he said, which absolutely confirms much of the material that we know about the Greys, is that the Greys, they don't have reproductive organs, but they also don't have bowels. They don't produce waste.
Yeah, from what I understand, they produce waste out of their skin, right? Like there are these pores in their skin that they produce waste out of, and that's kind of what explains that nasty smell. When you're around them, sometimes you'll smell this disgusting smell, people will say. Phil Snyder mentioned this before, right? Phil Snyder said that, there was this horrible smell when he came in contact with them, and it was just like overwhelmingly disgusting. Well, that's a common thing with the abduction phenomena, where people will have these, smell these terrible things. It's because they're literally pooping and peeing out of their pores. Just saying.
In the same way that we do as human beings, their mechanism of digestion is completely different than ours, and so this led this individual who published this paper anonymously to surmise that they could only ingest liquids, and that the waste from the food that they're ingesting, the nutrients, is being diffused through their skin.
Weird.
And it creates a very strong putrid ammonia.
No terrible bathrooms on the UFOs, right?
Well, think about it. People who've encountered these beings, what have they said routinely? These entities have a very potent odor to them.
Are you telling me the really sweaty ones are just having diarrhea?
Well, I mean, you kind of
bro.
described the way that they dispose of the waste. They basically sweat it out through their skin.
That's what a lot of these creatures smell like, they say,
Yeah, and so that's interesting. If it's liquid nutrients, if they can only consume liquid nutrients, I don't know how we got off on that tangent, but that is a little interesting piece of data.
So the other part is, like, I've been watching a ton of UFO docs lately, trying to study up and learn as much as I can. One military guy, I can't remember his name, on one doc I was watching, I think it was called The Phenomena. He was saying since 2014, the reason why the reason we're talking about it is because it's more and more sightings. Here we have, in a couple of months, multiple sightings.
I mentioned this last night on the Spaced Out Radio YouTube channel when I had a conversation with Science Bob, and Louis Borges, the science and UAP investigator. I mentioned that there was a report by the Debrief that said that there's an increase in sightings in commercial airline pilots. They said they're seeing an increase. It's not just because our sensors are improving; it's because there's an actual increase in these sightings.
Sightings with the same type of creature, and it caused a bunch of ruckus to where these events sort of become legend. And I want to throw this out there too, because this happens in like the Bigfoot space. Like it's like a nightly thing happens for like weeks on end, and there's so many people involved that the story becomes sort of more legendary than.
And real quick, allegedly there is a pattern. There's a pattern in the presence of these beings all over the world. The craft, the sightings, UFO sightings. There's a pattern, and it's predictable.
Just one individual encounter. You had the cops in Vegas, then he had the camera on us about the body cam footage, and then you had the interview of multiple people around there, and then they had video footage. So there's a lot of things that kind of create, you know what I'm saying? It sort of like gets everyone talking about it, and it seems to be more than just, oh yeah, old crazy cousin Eddie saw something in the bushes. It's not that we're talking about. But Tim, it seems like there's a lot more things happening where things used to spread out over years. You would hear like little rumblings of some UFO sighting, and then it'd be a long time before anything else happened, to where it made like the national news like this. Like,
well, what's changing the game here, let's be specific to the Amazon, is the fact that these guys now have smartphones.
Yeah, I guess so.
And I made this point in my video. They're way behind in terms of technology in the Amazon, obviously. This is a very remote area. You can only get to these places via the river. And so, yes, they do have cell phones. Yes, they do even have smartphones. They're cheap Chinese-made cell phones, most of them. Not everybody has them, because obviously these are not wealthy individuals. These are rather poor communities living out in the middle of the Amazon. They don't have resources to be spending on fancy cell phones. And so that's why the footage is so pixelated. It's not a great cell phone, number one. Number two, it's low light. And even good cell phones have a hard time recording anything of high resolution at nighttime. So, but because they do have cell phones now, because they do have in their hands the ability to quickly take pictures and video, that's why we're beginning to see more of this. This is a legend, the Pelacaras. This has been going on for time immemorial in the jungle. I can personally attest to all the UFO activity that happens in the Amazon. So it's not new, but there's more. The environment has changed. The atmosphere has changed in terms of the media. The media is now open to these stories, whereas before you might have had a story like this emerging from the jungle in which a village.
Yeah, real quick, just to be clear, even I'm like really surprised by the fact that there are people paying attention to what's happening in Brazil. I've told you all about the Brazilian military dealing with these beings and encountering some very disturbing activity with them, like the orbs that have been going into people's homes. And I think we'll look at it. We'll actually check out a documentary about that here in a second. But there's a documentary about this very thing where the Brazilian military was involved with another town where they had to defend them. They tried to defend them against these orbs that were going into people's homes, giving them cancerous-like effects and terrorizing them throughout the town. It was terrible. Again, I don't know. Something's up, y'all.
Is going through official channels to try and request or demand intervention from the Navy or the police because they're being attacked by these legendary extraterrestrial creatures, and the media would have responded by rolling their eyes. Right? We're not going to cover that. Stupid, those dumb jungle people and their ridiculous legends. We're not going to cover that. The environment has changed. Peru's been all over. The media in Peru has been all over the hearings at Congress, the UAP hearings. They've been saying that the United States is in possession of alien crash retrievals and bodies.
Okay, this is another thing, right? This is really important. The fact that for some reason, I don't know why the U.S. is spearheading this movement of disclosure or whatever you want to call it, but it is. It just is. And guess what? It's causing a stir around the world. It's a global phenomena, but people, for some reason, it's almost like they're waiting for the U.S. to be the first one to talk about it in public. And now that they are, it's all over the place. I don't know, man. There's a lot that could come out of this. Good and bad or indifferent.
Bodies. I mean, they've been all over this thing. So now, in this environment, when this story reached the media in Peru, it was taken seriously because the environment is different now. And so it's very possible that stories like this have been coming out repeatedly over the decades, but just never going viral because no one ever took them serious. And now, that's not to say that there isn't an increase in activity. I think there is an increase in activity. I mean, just look at the Vegas thing. There is an increase in activity, and we could speculate all day long as to why that is. And some people have suggested that maybe these entities are even cooperating with elements, human elements, and they're being encouraged to make noise, let's say, right?
Okay, this is a strange theory that I'm wondering myself. I'm not gonna lie. Hey, all of you My Labs people, all right, I'm open, I'm listening.
To make themselves a little bit more visible for some reason, for some agenda behind the scenes. And indeed, I know some very credible people who think that that may be the case. Now, that is a terrifying prospect. The notion that factions of the human race would be in league with these creatures and somehow directing them to do what to show their faces a little bit more, be a little bit more overt. That is a terrifying prospect. I'm not sure that that's true, but there are so many different directions in which we could speculate regarding what these things are, why they're doing what they're doing, and why there appears to be heightened activity, especially revolving around UAP hearing and all the revelations coming out by the whistleblowers.
And it's not a new phenomenon. Just like in the 50s, the flatwords monster was spotted in Virginia. We talked about it for a split second on our last episode, but it was a tall one, 7 to 10 foot tall, glowing, and it glided at these guys. After UFO crash, they saw this.
Reminds me of that glowing figure that was alleged to be captured by someone on photo. I don't know if it's real or not, but it is interesting. I did show it on Space Out Radio last night. I'm pretty sure Bob was upset. Like, what is this crap, man? This is unsourced, crap. I know, I get it, but we got to look at this stuff. I personally think we should look at all of it, even if we don't, even if we don't know yet. We should at least look at it so that it's a part of the data set, because there's a lot of fringe stuff that is a part of the data set that we should still be looking at.
Gliding, tall, almost looked like it had some sort of Catholic robe.
Peanut, or the aliens are directing people. Oh, I agree. Possibly.
Was on it, and it was like floating towards these people. So that was in the 50s, though.
Like a pelacara.
Yeah. So it's interesting that the way that these things move is sort of well documented in a lot of these historical stories. But, are we on the verge of these things popping up all over the place? Are they just coming out of portals and then we're catching them on cell phones? Or are they...
No, I think these gray aliens are real. They're biological creatures. They may be cybernetic also. They have bases under the ground, so they're inhabiting some sort of a subterranean world under the ground, either bases that they've constructed or they're making use of the natural caverns. I definitely believe that that's the case. But they're also in possession of advanced aerospace vehicles. So they're not...
This is such a bizarre... Guys, gals, ladies, gentlemen, demigods, non-binaries. This is such a bizarre topic because there are so many different possibilities involved with this phenomena, and this specifically just a Brazilian one. Could be us, could be aliens, could be the aliens telling us to do it, could be us telling the aliens to do it, we could be working together on this in a collaborative effort to cause mass panic. I don't know what's going on. If they wanted to cause mass panic, do it in the U.S. Man, that'd be bad, right? But I guess you can't because people in the U.S. they're too rebellious. It'd be a rebellion overnight. What's up, Toastazoid? I got to use the restroom. I'll be right back. I'm going to play this. I want to say please go to the Timothy Alberino YouTube channel. I'm going to post a link in the chat so everybody knows I'm going to give full 100% credit to Timothy Alberino's YouTube channel. Please follow that channel. Check it out. He does talk about things from a biblical perspective, but research is research. I go to every avenue. That's credible, and he is a credible source. Check him out. I'm going to use the restroom. I'll be right back. I'm going to post this in the chat right here, and follow them on YouTube. BRB, y'all. Hang tight.
They're not limited to moving around on the surface of the earth and beneath the surface. They're also very clearly in possession of, let's call them UFOs or UAPs. So they're flying through the air as well. Now, the interesting thing to think about, I'm sure we don't have time to go into this now, but the interesting thing for the audience to think about is what is the relationship between the large grays, the tall grays, and the small grays? I mean, it can't be coincidental that they look exactly the same, except for the fact that they are their statures are different. Now, it could be, as I've said repeatedly, it very well could be that these beings that are being described as tall grays are nothing more than the insectolins. That these are indeed the insectolins, and that the insectolins do represent the native species. I agree with Dr. Jacobs in his assessment that the insectolins represent the native species on board the craft when that are being reported by the abductees during abduction episodes. That is the native species. In other words, they're the ones that are manufacturing the grays. Mm-hmm. So are we looking at insectolin sightings? And again, the small grays would be clones, genetically modified beings that are cybernetically enhanced, perhaps also with artificial intelligence. Perhaps there's a hive mind there. There's so many different speculations here. But were they manufactured by the insectolins? I think the answer is yes. But then there's also the possibility that the insectolins are not themselves entirely biological, that they have cybernetic components, and maybe they were also manufactured, right? I mean, it's an endless speculation here, but the point is that they're real.
They're popping up everywhere.
And they're popping up, and they're terrorizing people in the Amazon. I do not believe this is, to reiterate, I do not believe that this is the activity of illegal miners with jetpacks.
I wanted to come back to that point, Tim, because I think it's important that in the debunking, and I say that in quotes, the debunking of some of these things, right? I would encourage you to go and look at some of the Google searches, if you're listening, about what the illegal mining activity that's been stopped by the Peruvian government and what they've confiscated, right? It is wooden ships with tin roofs that are dredgers, and they say they used high-tech technology to communicate when the government was coming, or when the Navy was coming around, and that was radios and cell phones. So the idea that these people who are illegally mining gold and pouring chemicals into the rivers,
mercury
right?
in the water.
This is their game. The idea that these same people would have jetpacks and be an armor to be immune to gunshots is patently absurd, number one. And two, it takes a lot to terrify an entire village in Peru. There's things you cannot discount about this story. Whether wherever you want to land on this, is there's a village that's terrified. There are real injuries. You want to say the video of the guy with half space is not real, or it's CGI, or it's from another time.
Or the girl, the 15-year-old girl who's got lacerations to her neck, and she
This
is
is my
clearly that girl. By the way, okay, I want you to consider this. That girl, watch the video. There's videos of her face blurred, but then you can find them in the Peruvian news, where her face is unblurred. She is in utter shock in some of those videos. Utter shock. So would she be in shock like that if just a bunch of miners grabbed her? I mean, I suppose if they're dressed up like monsters or something, but she encountered something otherworldly.
Yeah,
that's my point, Tim. Is that you can find this video, whatever. This video was at a different time, and the guy with the face was cartel, and it was piranhas. There's a lot of things that people can discount, but what you can't is that the vehicles and the technology these miners have when they're captured is nothing like that. What this claim to be debunked. Number one, it's not jetpacks, it's not gunshot armor, and secondarily, you have a real terrified village that asked for Navy protection,
demanded,
and you've got real injuries that you can verify with multiple photos now, and we have cell phone video, and that, of course, is also debatable. And you always want to play devil's advocate on this stuff because people do, but the similarities, when you break it down, I think it was very important to talk about what you're able to see. And the similarities to that and what happened in Vegas, and finding the chain of custody in those, right, and saying, okay, these are authentic. That you can't explain that away. And so this is my point. We can go down a bunch of paths and talk about tall grays and short grays and hypothesize on what's going on here, but you really can't dismiss any of what we consider to be the hard evidence here. Is that these are the facts, and this is what happened. This is really happening in Peru. And what is really happening, I think you do a great job of taking the evidence and then sort of saying this is what we believe is happening. And I'm there with you. I just wanted to say, listen, what you're going to read about this and how they're going to debunk this, and the prosecutor is going to say this, it doesn't make sense. All you have to Google is what the Navy confiscates when they get these illegal gold miners and illegal loggers.
High technology, the advanced technology.
It's not that.
Crappy cell phones.
Yeah, it's crappy cell phones. It's not jetpacks, man. This isn't
jetpacks.
And we've also talked too a lot about on the show that how different media outlets don't work the same around the world as they do in America. I do think they have controlled news around the world, but I'm just saying, for instance, there was elongated skulls found in Iran, and it was like in the news. It would never be in the news here. It would never make the news if they found an elongated skull somewhere in America. I'm sorry, it just wouldn't happen, right? It's like the media here is definitely way more controlled. So we've seen how, when you're in a third world country like we just were, things are different. Things run a little different. It's a little more like all bets are off. Even when you're just driving, it's just like it's kind of chaotic. So was the media that you were consuming there, did it feel like it was a controlled narrative, or did you feel like some of the real stuff was kind of coming out?
They look terrified to me. Some of these news reporters, the videos I'm watching in Peru, they look genuinely terrified. Remember, this is coming on the heels of the hearing. So all these Peruvians are thinking, we knew it. The U.S. government has had alien craft and bodies for decades. And then, boom, this story comes out of the Amazon. And remember, this isn't happening in isolation. So the stories are breaking all the time about UFO activity and are being taken seriously now. So, yeah, I would say that the coverage is serious, and there's definitely a little bit of shock. But now they're running with the Navy's conclusion of the investigation. Now they're saying, okay, everybody relax. It's a sigh of relief. That's what I'm saying. It's a sigh of relief. Okay, everybody relax. It's not aliens. It's not pelacadas. It's just illegal miners.
It's just rocket.
That's what it's like. It's not laughing. It's not like a clown show laughing at these villagers. It's a collective sigh of relief in the media in Peru. That's what I'm saying. So this is what's unprecedented here isn't the activity, rather it's the way that it's being covered in the news. Just like in the United States with the hearings, we've turned a corner and people are taking this stuff seriously. That doesn't mean that every single incident that comes out of the Amazon is to be taken as authentic. These are very superstitious people. The jungle folk are very superstitious. There's all kind of weird stuff. There's a lot of paranormal stuff that happens in the jungle. Obviously, if you're in a state of panic or paranoia, you can You can confabulate things that you think you've seen. You can be easily spooked if you already assume that all these strange creatures are stalking around. So, and by the way, the miners have done that in the past. So there's a historical precedent for that. The miners.
Sorry for that. Yeah, they're not miners that are flying around with bulletproof vests and jetpacks. It's stupid.
Have done that. They have made use of the legends in the jungle to try and drive away native populations. They have done that in the past.
Using legends is not the same thing as turning into freaking jetpack wielding Iron Men.
But it didn't look anything like this. I mean, you know, these miners, as we've been saying, definitely don't have access to jetpack technology. Okay, full stop. But they have in the past dressed up in suits and costumes and tried to terrorize these villagers. That's a dangerous thing for them to do, by the way.
Sure.
Because these villagers will not hesitate to shoot them.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. Pew, 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 pew. Listen, they're not jetpack wielding freaking bulletproof Iron Men, okay? Let's just get that straight.
Right. And most of the men in these villages have a shotgun because they hunt.
Yeah.
So they would not hesitate to shoot them. So it's a dangerous game to play if you're a miner, to try and drive these people off their land. And in fact, I heard a story very quickly. I had a friend in the Amazon in this region. His name was Emir Masinkai. And Emir Masinkai was a tribal leader, but his tribe was the particular one, the tribe that wears the grass skirts, and they use the blowguns. And of course, the darts on those blowguns are dipped in poison. They're rubbed on the back of the poison dart frogs. And he told me a story that one time there were these, I believe in this case it was drug traffickers. There was a group of drug traffickers that were operating in the territory of his tribe. And they were being aggressive with his people.
You can buy jetpack if you want to, Peanut.
And they were trying to bully his people. And so what did his people do? What did the tribesmen of this particular tribe do? They got together at nighttime. They grabbed their blow guns. They snuck up on the miners' camp at nighttime while the miners were sleeping in their tents and sleeping by the fire, and they blow darted every one of them.
Oh my gosh.
And killed them all.
Oh my god. You want to play that? Go get them. Sound like they're from Africa.
Okay, that's how the natives respond to
Wakanda forever.
To
Peru forever.
Infringement on their territory. That's how they respond. They're all like that out there.
It's like a native version of There Will Be Blood. There Will Be Blood, which is
There Will Be Blood, and
Amazon version.
They'll take you out, and they have the legal right to do it. These indigenous tribes in the Amazon, this territory belongs to them. If you try and run a pipe, which has happened many times in the jungle, you try and run like Petro Peru, the oil company runs a pipe through the Amazon, passing through the tribal territory of some of these communities. And if Petro Peru doesn't play ball with these natives, because they have to give them an annual payment or something like that to be able to run these pipes through their land, obviously siphoning the oil. And if they try and screw over the natives will literally turn the pipe off. They'll just turn the pipe off, and then they'll...
I feel like I've seen this. Hold on one second. I think I've seen the actual battle that you're talking about. As a matter of fact, now that I think about it, I'm almost certain that there's a video of these miners fighting back against, these Peruvian natives fighting back against these miners. I'm almost certain that hold on, let me just, one second here. I'm almost certain I've seen this before, y'all. I just know I have. I just know it. Maybe I'm wrong, but let's see here if I can find it. Hold on one second here. Miners in Peru get obliterated by natives in forest. Let's see here. Beginning. Let's see here. Let me see. I think I've seen it. I do believe. I don't know for sure, but let me just. I believe it. Yeah, I think. Okay, so I'm gonna pull this up here, real quick. Hold on, y'all. Let me just make sure that I got this right. Yes, we have footage. We have live footage of the miners being attacked by the natives in Peru after they have their jetpacks and their bulletproof armor. It is right, I believe, right here. Oh, let's maximize this because I think it's you guys are gonna really want to see this. You're not gonna miss this. Definitely real live scene according to the military and the okay.
Captain Sam, you hear me? On your left.
Oh, they have superpowers, everybody. Oh my gosh, this is getting really. Oh no, oh my god, oh no. There are the natives, the Peruvian natives right there. Oh my gosh. Oh no, they have they got technology too. They're fighting back. They will not allow the miners to take over this land. Oh my gosh, they don't need the Navy. It's getting real over there. Oh whoa whoa. Oh, look, there's a jetpack too. Wow. Wow, they're interdimensional? Oh my gosh. Oh my god. This is just in the military doesn't need to help the miners. I mean the natives there. The miners are in for a wild surprise. Oh my god. I think is that a Spider-Man? Oh my goodness. Wow. Wow. The natives are fighting back. They're coming together. You can't defeat them. Miners beware. Look, is that a tree person from the forest? Oh my gosh, a unicorn. Oh no. Oh no, it's happening. Oh, there's a bug person too. Is that a freaking Greek god? Oh my gosh. Oh no. It's an Iron Woman.
Is that everyone? Like you wanted more?
Wow, is that a ninja? Oh no. Oh my goodness. And they even have giant ants? Oh my goodness. Wait a minute, is that a green muscle man? The miners have no chance, ladies and gentlemen. They will not be able to defeat the Peruvian natives. They will not be able to defeat them.
Avengers!
Oh. Assemble. It has begun, the war against the Peru natives, and the miners have begun. Look at that. It's over. It's over for them. Wow, look at this battle happening in real time. Unicorns flying, jetpack wielding, giant ant-men. And that's exactly why. That's about as good as argument as you can get, in my opinion, about whether or not come on, man. You might as well. They might as well have just played that in full, the Avengers movie, and said, "This is the miners fighting. Or this is the miners being pushed back by the Peru." Seriously, y'all want to play this game with me? I'm not gonna upset myself. I'm not gonna do it. Let's just get back to this. I'm just
guard it with their guns or their blowguns or whatever. They will turn it off and kill anybody who tries to come and turn it back on. That's the kind of people you're dealing with in this region of Peru. These are not a bunch of panicky, weak-kneed people.
Yeah.
These are serious jungle people who their ancestry goes back, hundreds of years. They come from the Amazon.
Like I said, it's just as plausible that what we just saw is a narrative for that situation.
And yes, they are excitable as it pertains to the myths and the legends of the different creatures in the jungle. Yes, they are aware of these things, and yes, that can be used against them and has been in the past. But I don't want to give people the impression that these are weak-kneed people, that these are weak-kneed tribal men. These guys are tough as nails, and they will put a bullet in your head at the drop of a hat if you try and infringe on.
Dang, that's pretty graphic there.
In their territory, or abduct a 15-year-old girl, for example.
Yeah. Well, Tim, we got a hard out here, but thanks for another
Anyway, so I believe that if you want to play this game where it's like, oh yeah, look, the miners were flying jetpacks and wielding body-proof armor. Okay, cool. We'll go with it. So that was the update. Essentially, the update, the main update of the whole point of that video, and I think again, Timothy Alberino did a great job. His commentary is fantastic in this situation, and what essentially he's trying to tell us is that the military is claiming that it's miners. That's who did it, and then he's making a very good case for why that's a ridiculous narrative. And I think that is now we're dealing with a potential cover-up. We are dealing with a potential cover-up, which is why I don't think that it was human beings doing it. I think it was definitely if it's real, I think they've seen something a little more supernatural, ladies and gentlemen. So believe what you want, but that's my personal perspective about that situation, and we'll have to wait and see. For fact, we have to wait and see. We do not know. We don't know. Again, there's a lot of things. I feel like there's a lot of things that are going to come out about these different situations where we're just going to have to wait and see. We're going to have to wait until the evidence and the truth comes out about it. Right now, we're just waiting and guessing, and we don't even know if it's real. We have no idea if it's real. I don't know why people are talking to John Greenwald. I can't even believe it. I was, oh my gosh, I don't even want to say it. I don't want to say it. I don't want to get in trouble. But I would say that there's no benefit to listening to certain people in the field. John Greenwald's in it. The only benefit to listening to John Greenwald is if you want to make if like you need to pump yourself up if you're getting into a fight, right? You're getting into a fight and you're like, you want to know what it's like to be gaslit. You start there so you can prepare yourself for that. And I mean a verbal fight. You prepare yourself for, being gaslit. Now, I will really, really think that it's important. Listen to me, ladies and gentlemen. I know you may not like this person. There's a YouTuber named Neon Galactic, and I want you guys to check him out. Follow him on YouTube if you can. I'm subscribing to them right now. They did an interview with Peter Levenda, and it is a absolute must watch. We're gonna do a full watch, and yes, I know people frown upon this, but you know what? I'm not this channel is not monetized. Speaking of which, I rely 100% on your support of course elsewhere. Let's check it out, y'all. Let's just check this video out. Let's be respectful. I like Peter Levenda. You don't have to. Let's see what he has to say about the phenomena as it is today.
Reporter. Just real quick, I'm James Falk. I'm a reporter.
Peter Levenda, by the way, is the person who wrote the Secret Machines book with Tom DeLonge.
From Heat TV in Eureka, California. We're a rather small market PBS affiliate. I host a show on the television channel called Headline Humboldt, which is a public affairs show based around Humboldt County, California, Redwood Country, basically. As part of that, and as part of my own interests, I've gotten, I guess you could say, addicted to this subject, in part because of you, because of your great writing books, or your great books.
You have my condolences. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's been a journey, that's for sure. But so that's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you, because I respect your scholarship and the way that you approach the subject. You're not, positing any.
I don't know who that is. Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I'll have to. I don't know if I don't have contact with everybody. Just so you guys know, I have contact with people, but not everybody.
Answers necessarily, but you're looking at like the broad spectrum of things that sort of intersect with the phenomenon and how they all may play a role in an understanding that we need to reach in order to get to a better place with this subject. I just have some questions, and we can just run through them if you don't mind, or
please.
Okay, great. So first off, I wanted to give you a chance to respond to the issues that have been in the public sphere these last few weeks with whistleblower David Grush going before Congress, and that obviously was a major change from the way things have been. We haven't had that level of attention or respect for the subject. It remains to be seen whether people are accepting it or not. But being as you are near ground zero in terms of where this movement began with To the Stars and Tom DeLonge, what were your thoughts as you saw the testimony of David Grush and Fravor and Ryan as they were talking about their experiences?
Well, it was kind of a rush in one aspect, because here it is, we finally got to that point. And this was a public hearing so that anybody could listen in and make up their own minds about what they were hearing. We all knew that Grush was somebody who would prove himself to be extremely credible as an insider, as somebody who had access to the details of these programs. We had Christopher Mellon also, who's part of To the Stars in the very beginning, who also had that kind of access as part of as an undersecretary of defense. So there was, this idea that we're talking to people who can't always say what they know. But in Grush's case, he got cleared to say the things that he did. And that's a major thing. I mean, it all started in 2017 with that famous New York Times article.
Yeah.
And at that point, we felt, okay, the ball is now rolling. We're not going to put the genie back in the bottle, to keep mixing all these metaphors. But, it's out now. I mean, people are going to try to say, I haven't seen much, there's no proof. Show me a dead alien, maybe I'll pay attention. We're not there at this point. Where we're at is way beyond where we were, just 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Now, there were other hearings, obviously. Steve Bassett very famously had a hearing. There were all these things that happened. People were out there talking, but there was it wasn't at the level of a Grush and a Favor and Ryan. I mean, these are all guys who said, listen, we saw it, or in Grush's case, we saw the documents, we talked to the witnesses, we talked to people that had extremely high security clearances. We know that there's something out there that we have to pay attention to. The To the Stars group, when we started, was, as you recall, it was a CIA guy, a Department of Defense guy. We had, of course, Hal Plutoff, who's just like the OG of all this stuff.
Yeah.
The OG.
So we have all these guys.
I call them the OG just so everybody knows that. I say OG. Oh, come on. You going to do this to me now? Yeah, of course you are. You would. That's because you love me so much. I call it the OG. You know what I'm saying?
Guys who really were there, who could not tell us what they knew. The funny thing is, we had To the Stars, and we had all these guys who knew what was going on, or who had a pretty good idea what was going on, and they still couldn't tell us. So, Tom and I, we don't have security clearances. I mean, I don't know about Tom. I'm just assuming he doesn't. I don't. So it's like they couldn't talk to us. They couldn't even talk to us in a skiff. I mean, it was like, this is, we know what's happening. We're going to kind of steer this in the right direction, and then you guys carry the ball forward and see what can happen. So it's all these things were going through your head, and there's Grush just, calmly laying it all out.
Yeah, in a sudden rush of information.
Yeah, and it's like, whoa, what? And then there are all the naysayers out there saying, well, I don't know, I'm not convinced. Like Chris Mellon used to say at the very beginning of this project, when will they take yes for an answer? I mean, we're telling you, yes, you were right. Tom.
I want disclosure. Not that kind of disclosure. Oh my gosh. It's not doing what I want it to do. Hold on one second. Let me see if I can do something different.
Was right. Aliens exist. All of this was right. We're telling you, yes. Let's go to the next phase now. Let's go to the next step. Let's get these hearings underway. Let's get some of these documents declassified. Let's get some of these people on the record publicly, and then we can, we can do something about this. I'm going to shut this off here. It's making too much noise. Okay. Are we back? Yes. So. For us, for me, just watching it, it was, another vindication. I mean, the New York Times article was vindication, as far as I was concerned. The cat's out of the bag. So, but this hearing was extremely important, and it's just the first of a lot of different disclosures that are coming. So, we know there's a lot more. issue with all of this is a little different, I think, from some people's, and that is, I'm a little confused as to a number of things. One is the very American or United States centric aspect of this. We're acting like we're the only ones who know what's going on, or have access to the materials, or have access to the intelligence about this. We know that other countries do as well.
Yeah.
What's confusing is how come nobody else is doing this yet? Why
That's
isn't
confusing.
China? Why isn't
Yeah,
Russia?
why?
I mean, they have come out individually in bits and pieces. They've revealed things. The Soviets, in the old Soviet era, they were as concerned about this as we were. They may have had even a little edge on us in certain ways. They were actually reporting, they were finding ways of getting the attention of this phenomenon.
And efforts of communication and stuff, right? I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
So, there's that going on. So for the United States government to say, well, we can't talk about this, this is secret, and yet everybody has a cell phone and everybody has high, HD cameras, and they're pointed at the sky and they're picking stuff up, and they have advanced communications in the hands of normal human beings, you're not going to keep this secret for very much longer. So it's about time to, come clean, guys, as far as we can. I understand from a security point of view, we don't want other countries to know exactly what we know, because they may realize we don't know as much as we think we know. They may have an edge. They may have a missing piece. We want their missing pieces before we reveal our missing piece. I understand that mentality. But that's a Defense Department mentality. We also have the mentality of people who work in religious studies, in philosophy, in psychology, in the sciences. They need to be brought in, they need to be read in. We need to figure this out really quickly, because if something happens, if something lands on the White House lawn, the famous thing, we've got to be prepared. We can't just sit there and start the ball rolling then. We've got to have a lot of options and a lot of ways of viewing this and handling the information. And I don't think we have that yet. There's just not enough people involved, not enough regular people involved, not enough people from other countries, from other ethnicities. This sounds, sometimes I know I get into these arguments with people and they think, well, you're just trying to be liberal about this. You're talking about diversity. I mean, guys, this is not about trying to be politically correct. This is about, there are people out there with pieces of this information.
Yeah.
We don't have it.
Well,
they don't know they have it.
Yeah.
Right? And we don't know. And we've got to get them talking. We've got to get these people in Brazil, for instance.
Yeah.
We've got to talking to them.
Oh, he's talking about Brazil.
And people in other countries. I mean, Africa, there's a whole continent of people who have had these experiences. And we're kind of ignoring them because they're not in academia or they're not part of our defense establishment. We've got to stop that. We've got to start talking to people like they're human beings and try to figure out what they know, because we need to know this.
There's some follow-up questions I'd love to ask about that, the racial thing that you were just mentioning, having to do with, Adamski and the whole, potentially, I mean, some people say the Nazi origins of some of these phenomenons, which is something that I'd like to dive into a little bit. I mean, I think that may have been an early direction of the whole phenomenon, and it seems to have gone away from that. But is that still a risk? And there are people who still look at this whole issue through that kind of rubric, which could potentially damage, the acceptance factor.
Well, this is part of the problem that we face in Congress. I mean, if you watch the hearings, the Republican side, the conservative side was all in. The Democrat side and the progressives were very cautious about it for a number of reasons. One was the racial aspect, right? I mean, it's just too easy to go there. Yeah. The Roswell incident, for instance, was at one point widely considered by people in various defense agencies to have been a prototype Nazi weapon, right?
Yeah.
Maybe this was a German. I mean, it looked like the drawings that Kenneth Arnold gave us looked like the flying wings that were being developed by the Horton brothers under the Nazi regime. Maybe it was almost identical in shape. Yeah. So there was this idea that maybe the Arnold sightings and Roswell all connected. Maybe this was some Nazis somewhere in South America or someplace were doing this. So that opened the door to this idea, and the Foo Fighter phenomenon during World War II. Do the Nazis, and maybe in the case of the Asia Pacific, even the Japanese, was there some kind of Did the fascist and the Nazi right wing have access to some sort of extraterrestrial?
There's a lot into this, guys.
Some advanced technology. So,
Real quick, I gotta pause. One of the most important things for me is that there's a lot of this phenomena. There's a lot of aspects of this phenomena that's historically relevant that I don't talk about because although I've read the material, I don't know enough about it to comment on it. So I respectfully leave it to people like Peter Levenda, for example, to let you know, hey, there's a lot of aspects to this that we need to look at aside from just like craft or abductions. There's other countries that are involved with this. Again, that's something that we're all aware of. But there's also the Nazi connection and the occult that I know a lot of you don't like, but there's an occult aspect to this too.
So the Nazi thing has always been percolating, and Adamski with his Venusians and everything, that just contributed to the whole thing. And Adamski was popular; he was kind of famous for a while in the 50s.
Yeah.
And then what came out of that? You had George Hunt Williamson. You had all these guys coming out who were fascist or who were proto-fascist, right?
Yeah, the silver shirts and whatnot.
Silver shirts and Pelly, the whole thing.
Yeah.
So they sort of carved out this this piece of real estate for their own. It was very Morning of the Magicians, if you remember that.
Yeah,
one.
absolutely.
So it was kind of like in that area, and they sort of staked out that claim. And if you were liberal, if you were anti-fascist, if you were, sort of flag-waving American, type of person in the old concept of what being an American was, patriotic and all of that, this was hideous. And there was also the other aspect that Congress has a problem with, especially on the left, I believe. And that is the idea that UFOs are not scientific.
Yeah.
We've had such a problem
stupid
with
statement.
science, especially during COVID, with people attacking science, people who know nothing about medicine or about science, attacking it, saying it's a hoax or it's a conspiracy or it's the deep state or whatever.
Yeah, and so people continue to bring that to it when they are looking at this. Is this another facet of that same kind of argument, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the Democrats are saying, in general, Democrats, let's call them small d Democrats, people on the other side of this argument are saying, well, if it's not scientific, then let those guys have it because they don't like science, so they'll have the unscientific stuff. UFOs are probably not scientific. If we buy into that, we're buying into a whole bunch of stuff we don't really want to buy into.
Yeah.
I listened to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, for instance.
Yeah.
Cortez. She had a reel, I think, on Instagram. She was talking about, they asked her, bluntly, you were there, during the hearings. All she brought up was, well, we don't trust the defense establishment. There's a lot of corruption in the defense establishment. They have a huge budget. And it was like a conspiracy theory again, like this must be about the defense people trying to raise money, by creating a threat where none exists. And she didn't come out quite and say that, as I recall, but she was leading in that direction, right? And that seems to be, and we're not going to get anywhere this way. We have to have somebody saying that this does bear scientific scrutiny, that there is something that we need to know about this, and we need to know about it quickly because there's a feeling in the establishment that I've been picking up that there's something coming.
Yep.
That there's another shoe that has to drop.
Yep.
And we've got to be prepared for that, as I keep saying, and I've been saying for years. We have to be prepared for this. We have to look at this with open eyes and stop this divide. It's scientific, it's not scientific, it's real, it's not real. It's extraterrestrials flying in from Mars or something, Neil deGrasse Tyson is constantly harping on this, concept, and he doesn't get it, or he deliberately doesn't get it, what we're talking about. Yeah. Perhaps they've been here for thousands or millions of years. Perhaps this is a race living alongside us that we simply can't see for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And he's going to raise his arguments scientifically, and that's great. We welcome that. Let's get it all together. Let's put it all on the table with Avi Loeb and with everybody else. Let's all sit down and talk about it. What is and is not possible.
Yeah.
And get to the next step in this.
Now, I wrote a piece recently about this very issue, and it was published on Medium, so like 4 people read it, but I was proud of it. Anyway, I'll link it in the description. This is cheap advertising. But it was exactly that. I had interviewed a congressman on my show, Headline Humboldt, and I posed the question, David Grush, the hearings, what are your thoughts? And his response was angry. Like, he was not brooking any of the nonsense, quote unquote, that this represents. And I pointed out to him and you just mentioned this, and maybe I was mistaken in my take, but basically, is it okay to build a coalition of folks who want transparency, even though some of them may be doing it because they don't trust the Pentagon, or they don't trust the American intelligence establishment, or the corporations that make, you know, the billions and billions of dollars off of defense money? If they are after transparency, even if they think it's going to put the UFO topic to bed. Like, if people are, you know, think that, like, I don't care, or I don't think it's true, and I think it's done a lot of damage to American society, so let's get to the bottom of it, radical transparency, even though starting out I am a non-believer. Is it possible that a coalition of that sort could be useful?
I think so, if they're all sitting together and having to deal with each other, not through a social media medium, right?
Well, yeah.
Tweeting at each other. That's not working, right?
That's a thing of the past, right? Almost.
Yeah. Almost, yeah.
Yeah.
What we need to do is get people sitting together face to face and hear the arguments. Be civil about it. Give everybody equal time. Give the Neil deGrasse Tysons of the world equal time to sit there and say their piece, right? But then give the Avi Loeb people their piece, and give David Grush and everybody else their piece of it. Try to sit in front of David Grush or Fravor and tell them you're nuts. I want to see somebody do that, right? I want to see somebody challenge this. I mean, but they're not. They're doing it from a safe distance. And yeah, is it possible? I hope so, because even the naysayers, we're in this funny world where, you know, the QAnon people don't trust the government, they don't trust the defense establishment, they don't trust the FBI, the DOJ, all the rest of it. But then we've got people on the left saying exactly the same thing, and using that as they don't want to talk about UFOs, right?
Yeah.
Other people do want to talk about UFOs. The thing is, yes, we have been lied to by the government. Yes, Virginia, there is people who lie to you from the government.
Yeah.
There are politicians who lie. There's people in the intelligence establishment and the defense establishment. They've been dissembling for a long time over this. They kind of have to. They have lied to us during the Cold War, right? They've lied to us for a variety of reasons. You know, the Gulf of Tonkin incident. We can.
Yeah, there's a long list of, you know, lies.
Sure. And I get it.
Startling,
right?
you know. Yeah.
I 100% get it. But at some point, if you want disclosure, where's it going to come from? It's going to come from those people who were lying to you previously.
Yeah.
And if you've read my books, if you've read Sinister Forces, you know,
absolutely,
I'm very cynical about government. I'm very cynical about a lot of things.
Yeah.
I don't buy into. I'm not an establishment person. But that said, I'm also an historian, and I've watched the changes that have taken place in our defense establishment, in our intelligence establishment. Not great, not 100%, you know, squeaky clean, but there's probably more lawyers at Langley than there are secret agents right now. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's this idea that you can't do certain things, you will get caught, you will get prosecuted. Not like the old days, in the Wild West days, in the 50s and 60s, where we were just running around overthrowing governments with reckless abandon.
Yeah.
And, you know, doing stuff like MK Ultra and stuff in the United States. This stuff can't go on anymore, and it doesn't. There's so much scrutiny.
Yeah.
So we've got to take a breath and start dealing with people as if we're living in the 21st century now. We have a lot of baggage. Obviously we do, especially the intelligence and defense establishments. They've all done hideous things. But now we've got to push these people. These are still Americans. They're still our people. They're still citizens. They're not robots. They're not machines. They've grown up the way we did. A lot of the people that I've come across in my life is people who were in FBI or CIA. They joined after all this stuff happened. They joined long after the assassinations and the government overthrows and everything, and they have an idealistic idea, realistic, but at the same time idealistic idea of what they're doing. They're defending the country. In their eyes, they're defending the country.
Yeah.
And they're not, you know, rabid right or left-wing ideologues of any kind. They're trying to deal with a massive amount of information, trying to parse it and figure out how to best to defend the country against enemies, foreign and domestic.
Yeah.
So we gotta just take a breath, you know, and give some people the benefit of the doubt, at least listen to what they have to say. When they're coming out and saying, yes, there were UFOs, we know there's UFOs, we know there's this UAP phenomenon that we've been talking about, there are documents, there are people, there's even physical evidence, we have to take a breath, stop and listen and see how far it goes. We have to. Otherwise, we're just bloviating.
Yeah.
We've got nothing else, right?
Yeah.
Our opinions at that point. We need something to work with.
Yeah, it makes me wonder if, I mean, some of that messaging would be more effective if it was coming from someone who is currently inside the government. A lot of these folks have retired or have had to come out in order to talk about it, Elizondo, but at what point is the government itself going to be reaching out, do you think? Is that going to happen? Do you see that? Like with where we're at now, are we inching toward the point where Biden or his successor is going to come out in front of the dais and say, hey, look, we have to have a conversation?
We're inching towards it. The problem that we have with that is, what are they going to say? I mean, what is the real substance of what they can tell us?
Yeah.
We don't know. That's the problem.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
Well, we just don't know. Are they going to come out and say, yes, Tom was right, aliens exist, which is a meme that's going around now?
No, I saw that. Yeah. And it's true. I mean, we'll see about some of it, but he was on point.
Yeah, he was. And it's either,
as were you.
But is that what it is? Is that, are they going to come out and do that? Are they? What is it? What is the freaking phenomenon? This is the problem that I had. The other problem that I had that I started off with was that, why is it only a government that would know?
Yeah.
Does this phenomenon, I mean, there's the hints of this throughout, beginning with the famous Majestic 12, stuff. And those hints that it might have been a bunch of government peoples that somehow knew a lot more.
Yeah.
Or who were somehow in contact with the other. Let's just talk.
Do you guys remember whenever I told you that there have been earlier elements of legacy programs where they contacted the beings through rituals? This is why my boy Pio Lavenda is the man.
Yeah.
How does that work? How would the other know or respect that kind of contact with a high level, one country's government, talk to them and say, we'll tell you stuff as long as you keep it secret? How does that work?
Yeah.
Right? I can't get my head around that. And I just had a conversation with somebody from To the Stars about exactly this. I can't get my head around this. There's this insistence that the government knows. Why is it just the government? Do they, the others, understand about American
politics? Yeah.
Politics and the hierarchical structure and all the rest of it? How did that happen? Because if that's happening, then for sure they can land on the White House lawn, right?
Yeah, there's no barrier at that point. Yeah.
I've been on the assumption for many years studying this that there is no such thing, right? That the other just shows up whenever it wants to show up and goes away when it wants to go away, and there's no high level contacts between like the president of the United States and an alien emissary or something. I never really bought into that because the alien, whatever it is, must be so alien.
Yeah.
That would not look at one of us as being any different from any other.
Yeah, it's like
one organization is different.
How would we even communicate? It's like the whole thing about like dolphins may be highly intelligent, but we have no way to have a conversation with them because we have no common frame of reference.
Yeah.
So it's like the same thing would exist with an extraterrestrial intelligence or one from Earth that we have never communicated with.
Exactly. I mean, if you study history, you study when foreign countries go to other invaders go to foreign countries. The lack of communication is a huge problem, and that's just between humans.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't even imagine, and I've written about this. The communication problem seems to be almost insurmountable, except now we have to go back to the contactees, which are the last people anybody wants to talk about. But the contactees, they kind of insist over and over again that there's a telepathic form of communication. They see things in pictures. So that's a bit more digestible, I think, as an idea. If they're picking pictures and we're picking pictures and we're communicating with pictures and not words.
Yeah.
The aliens that have been described have virtually no mouths and no ears. There's, from the point of view of psychology, I'm looking at this as we're trying to understand that these beings do not speak and they do not hear.
Mm-hmm.
And as I said in another thing that I wrote, the aliens don't sing.
Yeah.
There's no music with the aliens, at least not that we can understand. Very large eyes, but virtually nothing else as a sensory apparatus. So the eyes imply vision, imply sight and pictures. So it's consistent. The contactees are consciously or unconsciously consistent in their descriptions of these contacts.
Yeah.
They're consistent, in terms of the biology. So I'm thinking maybe that's how it's happening. But then how do they make a deal with the U.S. government?
Yeah, and how do we know? I mean, seeing images doesn't necessarily indicate the legal parameters or the the in terms of any kind of agreement. You wouldn't know necessarily what you're getting for what you're promising through something like that. But an interesting part about the contactees, you've written extensively about that, and I've just reread Man and Gods, Gods and Man, and you talk about the nine, and there's been a series of groups or individuals that have come forward over the past 100 years, more so like I guess in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, who said that they were communicating with an off-world intelligence, and I haven't had a chance, and that's something I would like to do ultimately, is like to go back and look through all these so-called communications and the automatic writing that may have accompanied it, and look for a consistency of, I wouldn't say message, because I think that if they are adept at human politics, then there may be all kinds of motivations to get us to do things that might ultimately help out their mission or whatnot. But is there a consistency in style or approach or something that could link those as to being related experiences rather than just individual people, having the hallucination that they're talking with something out of this world?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's sort of the focus of what I was trying to do with the Sinister Force, with the Secret Machines series, is that to try to talk about consistency across these groups.
Yeah.
The consistency of how they relate to the other, the abduction experiences, all of these things. We can go back through history and find that there's a consistency of detail. But when it comes to the nine, for instance, that the contact with the nine has persisted to the present day. There are groups out on the West Coast that are sort of inheritors of this, of the original nine, some of the original people who passed on, sort of a training where they passed on the contacts somehow to other groups. Esalen at one point was part of the whole nine experience. Uri Geller was part of it.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Uri Geller's been all over Twitter talking about some crazy things, y'all. Check it out. Go on Twitter, check out Uri Geller. Hold on. Yeah, there's been communication with these things by a lot of people.
Along with Harch, yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
So I mean, and so I find that they contacted me. I mean, actual contact.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, okay.
Okay. No, they did contact me at one point. They were sort of one correspondent was angry with me because of Sinister Forces, and when I had talked about the nine initially, and linked it to the Kennedy assassination, right? Which is undeniable. I mean, the same individuals were within a handshake away of Lee Harvey Oswald. So they wrote to me in protest, and I said, listen, guys, this is just based on the documents. I didn't make this up.
Yeah.
Harch talks about all these people, and then I find all these people in the Warren Commission report. I mean, there's you can't deny it. And they kind of backed away from us. And they were trying to feel me out to know how much I knew and what was my intentions about all of this. And this was the Sinister Forces. So we're talking about in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
There's been they still exist, and they're still very protective about this group of nine intelligences, and their leader is called Tom, right? The supernatural leader is a guy called Tom, and they're talking Tom all the time. So, yeah. But anyway, this is, and they're very protective of this, and they're insisting this is still going on. And I think one of the texts is Plan 9 from outer space, right? So they're talking about all of this stuff, and they are consistent about it. But then they go off into the very hyper spiritual, hyper metaphysical stuff.
Yeah.
Which 9 wasn't really like that in the beginning. The 9 was kind of very down to earth. There was metaphysics there. But Harch was asking scientific questions just to test them and getting scientific answers back.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more, and I think whoever's channeling the 9 at this point is not really taking advantage of the situation, because it's a lot more flexible. It could give a lot more information if only they get out of the metaphysical realm and try asking some basic questions about if to test this contact, right? to see if it's the same contact as it was back in.
Yeah, to try to find some linkages or similarities or whatever.
You should be able to test it. You should be able to go through the old documentation and start testing and seeing where it's going. But I haven't heard anything like that.
Yeah. You mentioned it, and I hadn't really planned on talking about that part of it, but the crazy linkages with the Kennedy assassination. Now, mentioning this is like, okay, people who have their hats on, they're like, oh, okay, this is just proof that they're going to go off half-cocked. But like you said, it's all documented, all these relationships between the CIA and, potentially communists and everything else, and they were all sort of radiating around Texas and Florida and right at the point when this assassination was ongoing. And I'm like baffled as to what a prosaic explanation could be for all of these like strange and just baffling connections. Any thoughts on that? I mean, it's an aside, but
I mean, it's
it goes to the sinister forces point you're making, right? I mean,
yeah, it sounds like an aside, but it isn't really, is it?
Yeah, no, it's not.
Here I am. I mean, there's no earthly reason why I should be in the middle of this particular development right now. I'm a kid from the Bronx, right? I mean, I just barely graduated high school. But there I was in 1968, a member of a church that had David Ferry and Jack Martin as priests and bishops, let's not forget.
Yeah.
And the head of that church that I belonged to in the Bronx was communicating with Jim Garrison, trying to get him to release Jack Martin and send him back. I mean, I have all that documentation from Garrison's office, right? It's online, you can get it.
Yeah.
How the hell does that happen?
Yeah.
Right? How the hell does this happen? And so you start pulling the threads of this thing, and you see that, you have Lee and Marina Oswald living with Ruth Payne, and Ruth Payne is like the daughter-in-law of Arthur Young, who was mine. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. And all of these things start to get the number of people gets smaller and smaller. The circle gets tighter and tighter. But at the heart of this circle is weird churches, the UFO phenomenon, and weird intelligence operations that nobody can seem to understand. Garrison himself was so frustrated with the churches that when the commissions at Congress started, the commissions into the investigation of the assassination took off, Garrison is writing to them saying, look, you can have all this stuff that I have no clue about the churches. Can you find out what role these churches play? Because they're all over this, and then so you pick at that thread, and you get one of Guy Bannister. Here's Guy Bannister. In the heart of the investigation, as far as Jim Garrison was concerned, but Guy Bannister was researching UFOs in 1947 for Hoover.
Yeah, and he was also, didn't he communicate with what's his name in Washington right after his sighting? And the slag killed the dog on the boat.
Fred Prisman and Harold Dahl, right?
Yeah.
So he's involved with all of these people, and he's sending back these telexes to Hoover called, Special Project X. Right, so it's an X file, and he's sending all of these documents back on this sighting and that sighting. He interviewed this witness and that witness, and then less than 20 years later, he's in New Orleans with Lee Harvey Oswald and Guy and Jack Martin and David Ferry and the whole weird clown car of people based on Bank Street, and it's like, why, how? And then Oswald starts bragging he's going to get a job at NASA, right? And some of the people he worked with at Riley Coffee are all looking like they're going to get jobs in the space program. I mean, and this is all there. I mean, the paperwork is there. The documents are there. Ruth Payne, in front of the Warren Commission, is about to tell everybody she's up there visiting Arthur Young 2 months before the assassination, right? She's got Lee Oswald in her house and Marina Oswald. She's talking to Russian defectors, for crying out loud. She's going to see Arthur Young, who's a key figure in the defense establishment, the inventor of the Bell helicopter, right? One of the 9 talking to ghosts or aliens or something in this barn in Maine in 1953. She's cut off in this account by none other than Alan Dulles. Alan Dulles changes the subject, stops her from talking completely, and that whole story she starts to go into. She went up to see, Arthur Young up in Pennsylvania, and the whole thing gets derailed. They never get back to that subject again.
Yeah.
And then I find out that Alan Dulles, his mistress, Mary Bancroft, was the best friend of Arthur Young's wife. I mean, it just got worse and worse and worse, you know. And then
Yeah.
Michael Payne is working for, you know, Bell Aerospace in Texas, and I mean, on and on. So yeah, the circle got smaller and tighter and tighter, but we don't understand it.
Yeah.
We don't understand it in human terms. We're having a very hard time putting that together, and that's what I tried to show in Sinister Forces. My point in Sinister Forces was to say, this is the evidence. This is the truth. These are the documents. These are what the people said. Do I know what's going on? No, I haven't a clue.
Yeah,
you know,
but it seems, but I mean, and again, it seems like there's a thread through American history, in particular, because that was your focus, where this stuff just seems to, this uncanny synchronicities and personalities seem to conglomerate around really strange phenomenon, and that is fascinating to me. And your approach again was to lay out the actual things, and not to be like, it's this, and here's why I'm arguing that. It's like, here's a bunch of stuff, what do we make of it, you know? And I really appreciated that, because it doesn't assault the reader's intelligence, and it's also, that's all you need to do. It's like, by pointing out this stuff for someone who's like, you know, a critical thinker, it's like something is going on because of A, B, C, and D. This can't just be, you know, random happenstance. And what that is, that's again the question. That's what leads us, you know, always back to the same thing. What is at root in some of this stuff, and whether or not it's the same phenomenon, you know?
Well, I think if we can learn more about the UAP, we'll get a little bit closer to this answer, right?
Are you telling me that you joined the chat, Mr. Armenian?
Get a little bit closer to these answers, because there's something about that, because it also defies rationality. What these things do, we don't understand how this happens. We don't understand how it works. And I think government has more or less already admitted they pretty much don't understand it. So if they don't understand it, they need help. And it may be that they're looking in the wrong place. There's a story I like to tell. It's an old joke about the drunk. The guy at the bar, and he's looking on the street, and somebody comes out of the bar and says, "What happened?" He says, "Well, I lost my keys." And they ask him, "Okay, well, where did you lose your keys?" And he points to across the street. "Well, why are you looking here?" "Well, the light's better here." And that's what we're doing.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, absolutely.
We're looking where the light is better, and we're never going to find our keys this way.
Yeah.
We've got to go where it's a little dark, and you know, dare to go there and dare to look in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a little scary, but this is not working so far.
Yeah, absolutely not. I wanted to bring you back real quick to something you mentioned a minute ago. You're getting the sense from people in the establishment or in the intelligence community or whatnot that another shoe is going to drop. And Chris Bledsoe has, I think, thrown out the date of something of like 2027. There are several things like this. Now, people point to, well, these things have been happening throughout human history, where people predict the end times, and the date always comes and goes. But there are several people and threads that are kind of pointing to something in the next couple of years where, you know, something may occur. Is there anything you can share with us to give a shape to that, or is it just sort of this, you know, thing floating out there?
This is what people are saying. That's as much as they're saying.
Okay.
They're not going any further. They're not saying it's going to be a dead alien or it's going to be a piece of a spacecraft or something. They're saying there's more coming. Another shoe's going to drop, and it's going to get even more intense in the next couple of years. We're building up a head of steam on this.
Yeah.
Like I say, the genie's out of the bottle, probably literally and figuratively. So we're not going to be able to go back and, you know, try to say poo-poo this anymore. This has become part of establishment narrative right now.
Yeah.
It's insinuating its way into Congress and into the defense establishment, into the intelligence establishment. It's becoming canon. We're getting to that point where there's going to be a special place just for this, and it's going to involve a lot more people and a lot more evidence. And from what I understand, they have more evidence. They just don't know what the hell to do with it.
Yeah. One of the things that I just finished the book, Joseph Farrell's Saucers, Swastikas, and Psyops, and they talk a little bit about a breakaway civilization. And that's been something that's been tossed around, and you've mentioned it also, that there may be some sort of breakaway explanation for this, whether it's other humans or even like a Homo species that maybe have survived in some way. What are your current thoughts on that? I mean, it seems like there's a lot of people are excited about the Homo naledi discoveries, the Cave of Bones, and that sort of thing. what are your thoughts right now on the whole idea of a breakaway civilization as cause, or anything related to that?
Well, I was first made aware of this concept of breakaway civilization during a bunch of interviews I did maybe 15 years ago or so. A young woman who's passed on now brought up this idea of a breakaway civilization, and from what I understood, what she meant was that a cabal of very wealthy people creating an off-planet civilization, like in their backyard, kind of getting ready to get off-planet and escape. And she meant by that, and my reaction to that, she asked, "Did you believe that's possible?" And my reaction was, "Why wouldn't it be? I mean, if I had all that money, I'm looking at what's happening around with the climate, particularly, and the rise of asymmetrical warfare. If I had this kind of money and I had these resources, yeah, I would do it. I mean, of course, why wouldn't somebody try to do that? It's predictable. Not that I would leave all my fellow humans behind, but I could see where that impetus would be. And then they started branching out, and they started saying, well, it's more than that. It's other civilizations and maybe other planets, maybe other beings, and maybe the rest of it.
Galactic Council and all that stuff starts playing into it.
Yeah, and it's like, let's try to solve the UFO problem first. Saying how many alien races are there? I hear this all the time. I'm thinking, guys, calm down. I mean? We're still struggling with the idea there might be one. And is it alien or is it ultra-terrestrial? Is it subterrestrial? Is it, does it live in the ocean? Is it here with us? Has it been here with us all this time? Or is it right next to us? But we just can't see it. I mean, there was this exercise given to me by Timothy Good, famous, UFOlogy from England. We met at this thing in this breakaway civilization conference, I guess it was, secret space program in Amsterdam some time ago, more than 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I guess. And we shared a bottle of scotch because we had nothing else to do in this little tiny hotel. So, and he said, listen, you want to, see how this works, just go to any public place. Go to especially an airport. Go to an airport or a shopping mall and just sit on a bench and just get very peaceful and then just say, okay, I know you're here, say hello, and then open your eyes and see what happens. And somebody will inevitably turn around in a crowd, look at you and wave and disappear. He says, they're there with us. They're here. They've always been here. That was his point. And I've had that experience. I think your listeners probably know very well. You don't want to hear it anymore. My infamous Man in Black experience in Rhode Island. Years. I mean, and I hadn't seen a UFO. I had nothing, I had no personal contact with, I had never had a sighting. I hadn't had one until a couple of years ago. But I'm getting the Men in Black thing. I'm thinking, like, why? You're supposed to do this. This is like in reverse order, right? So, but this does happen. And there was something uncanny about that experience. These were outwardly human. But there was something off. There was something just a little off.
Yeah.
It was disconcerting. And it happened, both times. First in Rhode Island and then in the airport in Singapore, where one of them tapped me on the shoulder. So they were corporeal and tapping on the shoulder, and I turned and they waved and disappeared. It's like they're here. Right?
Yeah.
And they can be visible and they do look like us. But there is something a little off. And that whole Men in Black thing, where it's the old Cadillacs, and the slightly off suits and the manner of speaking, I kind of believe it now because I've had that, confrontation.
Yeah.
If only because of that, I can't deny it. I used to be in a position where I could say the UFO phenomenon is real because I've seen the evidence. I haven't seen one myself, but I know the evidence is there. Therefore, I have to trust the evidence. Now I can't do that anymore. Right?
Yeah, because you've seen it.
I've seen the UFO and I've seen this.
Yeah.
So, okay, now that part of my shtick is ruined. Now I have to be one of those who actually saw something, and that's a little disconcerting. But.
Yeah. Well, that's is my volume jumping to you?
No. Sounds
okay,
good.
Okay, cool. It's jumping in my headphones, but that's fine. One of the things I wanted to ask you about in regards to that, there's been a lot of talk about it being sort of infectious, and people talk about it mainly in the hitchhiker, realm. I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are on Skinwalker, but I've watched the show, and I wish it was presented slightly differently so that it would have more gravitas off the top. But I do respect with the investigation and what they're trying to find out. But there's a lot of talk about the whole thing being infectious. I mean, Lou Elizondo has I think a parasitology degree, for parasites, and some people think that's telling. Do you think that your encountering of a UFO has anything to do with your working with To the Stars Academy?
The first reaction I got from someone at To the Stars when I related this story, I was saying holy shit, and I'm sending emails to everybody that I knew at To the Stars, and one of the responses that came back was, well, they took notice, right?
Yeah.
They noticed you, and therefore they showed up just to say, basically, hello.
Well, here we are.
I've had a few things happen like that. I've known Whitley Strieber for a very long time. I'm just going to name check him right here.
Yeah,
so,
he's another person that I like.
He seemed very open-minded and always has been as to what the phenomenon might be. When he first contacted me, he didn't know how to pigeonhole it, what kind of category it was. Was it something real? Was it screen memories of something else? We went through a lot back in those days. And one evening here, I was finishing work in the middle of the night, as I usually do, and I suddenly heard a very strange electrical noise, like a short circuit, but going on for a little bit too long. Mm-hmm. And I was startled, and I started looking all over I have nothing that does that. Right? I've got some computers, and that's about it. So I couldn't figure that out, and then suddenly right after that, it came a series of hard knocks, like somebody knocking on the door, but knocking in the room.
Yeah.
So I mentioned this to Whitley, and he said the same thing that the guy said when I saw the UFO. Well, they've noticed, and they do. I think once they've noticed, there's a connection.
Somebody asked this last night. Somebody asked this last night. Was it you, Peanut?
Being contaminated somehow, or being something contagious. But I think there is something like that. There is you're carrying it with you somehow, that contact with you for a while.
Yeah.
And I made a joke about this at a conference in New York. I think it was in February. No, anyway, it was this year, earlier this year in New York. And I opened by saying I was giving thanks to Leslie Keene for her work. Mm-hmm. I said, it was not for that New York Times article, all the rest of us would be living in a van down by the river. It got a laugh, and I said, I don't know why. I just came to New York from Florida, and I've got Chris Farley, as a hitchhiker, so maybe a spirit animal.
Yeah.
So the whole hitchhiker thing is I never really paid much attention to it before. It sounded like a hokey kind of new agey take on it.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure.
Yeah. Well, that's what the phenomenon does, right? I mean, it takes your barriers and makes you unsure of them over and over and over again. When I started out, I read, it's interesting you mentioned it, Leslie Keane's UFOs and Generals. I'd always had a little bit of an interest, but I read that book and I was like, holy mackerel, here's a bunch of really credible people who've had really incredible experiences. And then, here it is, like 5-6 years later, and I am totally on a different planet in terms of my thinking about this stuff. And the other thing, and I think that you're like one of the main, I wouldn't say reasons for this, but one of the main avenues that this occurred to me was that you expand your thinking in a lot of different arenas. You go down spiritual or mystical avenues. You start thinking about the Gnostics, and you start thinking about philosophy, and you start thinking about science and the philosophy of science, and whether we know what we think we know, and how how the lack of humility in human scientific endeavor may be actually deadly to our society if we don't realize this. And so it is kind of an initiation, which goes back to previous parts of your work, where this functions as an initiation into a transformative process where you're suddenly entertaining ideas that were completely alien to you prior. And I've enjoyed that. Some people might not, but it's been the ride of my life, and it's led me down roads that I never would have gone down before, and ultimately I think you end up as a better, more well-rounded person as a result.
Well, I hope so. I mean, that's I don't own that approach, right?
Sure.
It's absolutely everybody. Just, I know people want to put the UFO in a box, right? And it's in a box over here. But the UFO, if it's taught us anything, is that it's about everything.
Yeah.
If it violates science as we know, if it violates the laws of physics, if it shows up and disappears, if it does those 90-degree turns, you know, I mean, in the middle of wherever, I mean, the fascinating thing is that they would even know in advance where Fravors' jets were going to rendezvous.
Yes, the cat point.
Yes,
Absolutely.
and wait,
He didn't even know, you know?
That freaks me out. That's
Yeah.
more than anything else. That's the part that freaks me out the most. That's the part we should pay attention to the most. They're telling us something, as much as they can, maybe through pictures, as we say, but they're telling us something. They want our attention. They want us to know what they know, or they want us to know, you know, that there's another way of looking at all this.
Sure.
And I think that led me down those areas. I mean, I grew up in the '60s, so I used to read, you know, R.D. Lang, you know, The Politics of Experience, and all this, you know, avant-garde kind of philosophy, psychology stuff was very, very popular. And Michel Foucault and all the French, you know, postmodern.
Oh, yeah. I'm an English major, so I did my Foucault and Derrida.
Well, that's it. If you don't neglect that, go back to it and reread it now, knowing now what you know.
Yeah.
Going and rereading it, and you suddenly realize they're talking about something else.
Yeah.
Right? They can help clarify some of this. And that's what I found. That's why I haven't given up. I still have my copy of The Politics of Experience. I'm still reading R.D. Lang. I know he's been, you know, attacking debunked 10 Ways to Christmas, but he was on to something, and the others were as well. Foucault was, Derrida was, Rockheim was, you know, Baudrillard, everybody was, you know, the Woods, Guattari, you know. So there's all of this is, you know, is pertinent, is relevant to me. They're all struggling like the blind man and the elephant to try to understand what this phenomenon is, and everybody has a piece of it. We got to put all the pieces together, you know. And that's what I've been about for most of my life. Put the pieces together.
The synthesis. And I think you've been doing it beautifully. Check my notes here. There's a lot more I wanted to ask you about. Okay, so I have a friend on Twitter, Tristan. Great guy. He's got his handle. Go ahead.
Yeah, Tristan,
you know what I'm talking about?
I think so, yes.
Okay, anyway, he shares these beautiful graphics, and he's a thinker, and we had a conversation on the phone. I told him I was going to interview you, and he asked me to talk to you about a little bit about the relationship between death / the afterlife, potentially, with the phenomenon. And I know that Whitley Strieber has talked a lot about that. And also, in your books, the connection between death and the celestial ascent, how dying sort of is seen as a journey through the stars, perhaps through the Big Dipper to get back to, I'm not sure what. So, I mean, I guess I'm going to ask you is, what are your thoughts currently about that connection? Has anything changed significantly in your thinking or grown more fulsome? Just if you could pontificate on that for a minute.
You don't pull any punches, do you? You ask like the heaviest, deepest, most profound, you know, questions.
And you got 5 minutes. Right. I'm kidding about that.
It's hard to live up to the question. I mean, I did, of course, write about celestial ascent. It fascinates me. That's one aspect of all of this that I think goes back to everything we've been discussing. Celestial ascent has been something we find in so many different cultures around the world. The idea that we are going to the stars and that we belong up there and that this is not our home.
Yeah.
We feel alienated on our own planet. We must be the only beings on this planet that feel that we don't belong here, that can actually conceive of the Earth as a prison planet. I mean, who else does this, right?
Yeah.
Prison
planet. Of course, there's nobody else here except us, chickens, but we do. We tend to look at this way. Why is that? There's a flaw either in us or there's a flaw in this system somehow. You know, a glitch in the matrix, as they say. There's something that we're seeing something else, and we're realizing that this is not the reality that we think it is.
Yeah.
And I was just having conversation. I had a conversation with Tom just last week, I think, along similar lines, that this is not the reality you think it is, and it's something else.
Yeah.
Death is part of it. Death is the great joke. It's the banana peel on the floor of reality. we are petrified of it, or we try to ignore it, or we try to, protect ourselves against thinking about it or getting emotional. And when someone that we know dies, it's heartbreaking, it's wrenching, and we don't understand it, and we think there's something wrong with it. And yet animals feel the same. A dog will mourn its master for years after the master has died, visiting the grave and sitting there. We've seen this before. We know this kind of thing happens. So there is something genetically, and I've talked about this in Secret Machines Man, I think. We are genetically predisposed to reproduce and then die and get out of the way.
Yeah.
As Richard Dawkins calls it, the selfish gene.
Yeah.
Our gene wants to live forever. It is potentially immortal. There is immortality in our genetics. But somehow in our consciousness, we resist that. We shouldn't. If it's genetically so that we're supposed to reproduce, die, and get out of the way, we shouldn't have a problem with that. And yet we do. We have a big problem with it. We want to live forever. That means that there's something alien within us. There's something within us that's fighting the gene, that's fighting the DNA molecule. And that to me is consciousness. Consciousness wants this physical sheath to last as long as possible until we've answered all the questions. So we're here in this body, we want to keep using it. But there's a part of consciousness, and now we're getting, you asked for something profound, and I'm giving you...
You're following through. This is good. No, I like it.
There are training, you can train your consciousness to confront death and to go through it, to see through it, to get to the point where it's no longer threatening. And that's what we find in UFO contactees as well. The contactees who've gone through these horrible experiences, they sometimes come back and suddenly they no longer fear death. Or they have the near-death experience and they see the light at the end of the tunnel and all of that. And some of them come back terrified, and some come back completely at peace with the entire process. There is a consciousness aspect that we are closed to, possibly due to our genetic code that does not want us to have this experience, that wants us to die and get out of the way, where we actually can experience something that's transcendent, that death is not the point. It's not the point at all. And once you've had that experience and you've gone through it, you realize that it's the banana peel. It's the slapstick humor of the death thing. And we don't want to take it. We resist that mightily, that concept. But it's there. The genetic code and our consciousness can work together a little bit and create a different kind of perception of reality, a perception of our lives. And right now we're just operating as automatons. The genetic code is telling us, okay, reproduce, get out of the way. Stop using up the resources. We need the children to grow up and they have to reproduce. And that has to go on and on and on. And for individuals to be immortal goes against the whole genetic idea. That just ruins the whole plan.
Yeah.
So my advice is, screw the genetic code. Try to find your way. Try to find a way to understand this, to get past it, and to realize the genetic code is just one more thing that's there. It's not the sum total of who you are. There's another aspect, and I disagree with people like David Chalmers and the others who talk about consciousness. And they say that, consciousness is an emergent property of the brain. I don't think so. I think it's the other way around. I think the brain is an emergent property of consciousness. I think consciousness has always been there. And that's just me being a 60s hippie kind of guy, I guess. But,
well, no, I think that there's movement that way, scientifically.
That's how I've been led to that, into that direction, and I think that's where it is.
Yeah. Have you read anything by Donald Hoffman? He came up with the book, I forget the name of it, but basically he argues that consciousness is at root and that everything extends from that. It's neither here nor there, but it's interesting. He makes the same points that you're making. And you mentioned DNA and genetics. It's interesting. If we consider that somehow we're on a prison planet and that an element of us comes from afar or from elsewhere, it's almost as if the DNA could be the handcuffs,
right?
And you talk about DNA consciousness, that opens up a lot of questions about how an intrinsic part of ourselves might be a mechanism for limiting our consciousness or our ability to see beyond, our present circumstance.
Well, sure. Our DNA has evolved to the point where our senses are really limited we're not getting all the impressions of everything around us, which is why we can't see half of what's happening around us, right? We have, certain five senses, or I think there's more now, but we're filtering, we're constantly filtering for the survival of the DNA molecule. Right? So we're aware of threats, but we're not necessarily aware of things beyond threat. There could be aspects of our environment that are not threatening, but actually helpful or healthful, and we're not going to see it unless we really need to see it at a certain specific point. The DNA wants to get confused, right? I actually did a presentation on this at an old Contact in the Desert, maybe 9 years ago or so. I did a whole DNA presentation about this very subject, showing that ancient peoples, for instance, in China, there's a very famous glyph of the father and the mother of the human race, and they're two beings facing each other, but their tails are serpents and they're twined.
Peter Lavenda, I gotta get, after I wipe the floor with this dude right here, we gotta get going. I'm sorry, guys. But the guy that that's talking right now is Peter Lavenda. He wrote the book series Secret Machines. You should read that series. The God's Man is out, but War is not out yet. It's in fiction and non-fiction format. Both are very interesting, and they tell a compelling story about what they say, what he claims is like the inside knowledge of what the government knows about the phenomena and some other things.
In the form of the double helix. And this was long before anybody knew there was such a thing as quantum code. We're talking 600, 700, 800-year-old drawing.
Yeah.
And in India, you have the same thing, this idea of a double helix. And there is no double helix in nature other than the genetic code. There are helices, single ones, spirals, but the double helix does not exist as a natural phenomenon except in our DNA.
Yeah.
All right, guys, listen. Have a great day, Ravens Creek Charms. Listen, guys, I'm sorry. I wanted to watch this in full, but we don't have enough time. I thought it would be over by now. There's 9 minutes. I know, but I really got to get going. So I want to thank everybody for being here, of course. Y'all know I appreciate you. I'm on Kick now. I don't know if that's going to amount to anything at all. But if you can, go to Kick, follow the channel. It's just going to be, part of adding to the audience here. Hopefully it'll be a good audience, a healthy one, full of people that want to have healthy discourse, nothing crazy. You're going to get your trolls every now and then, you know that. But it's all fun. It's all fun under the sun, so let's have a great time. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate the support. And again, for those of you who supported the show on the GoFundMe, thank you for that as well. Thank you very much for that. Really appreciate it. I'll be back again tomorrow. 2 o'clock Eastern time, right here. Talk about more alien stuff. To be honest with you, we're gonna be expanding some things, some conversations here. But for now, we're gonna stick to what's hot topic on the UFO front. And we'll talk about some crazy stuff tomorrow, or next week. I'm sorry, but tomorrow we'll talk about something really interesting. Soon we're gonna talk about some crazy stuff. We'll delve into even the Illuminati. Okay. You want to go there? Illuminati. Just for the sake of just kind of expanding the content. Things that I think are relevant. Again, it doesn't mean that everything that I show is true, or not everything that I say is true. Who knows? But it's interesting stuff. They all have grounding in some truth. The question is, what is the truth? And that's what we're here to figure out together. All right, y'all. I'll catch y'all tomorrow. Of course, same time, same place, right here. Talking about them aliens, y'all. Until next time, Dr. Doors out. Peace.